Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
Making fun of Shane.
That's always a good pastime.
I know. I know.
That's a pretty sweet quarter zip pullover we're wearing today. It's like a half zip, I guess.
Thank you. I'm blacked out. You know.
It is February.
It's black.
It's cold out, is what I meant. You got the long sleeves and
just don't crack, is what you're saying.
Okay.
Come on, Shane. What you got to make about that?
All right.
I don't even know what any of that means.
Like the Rock and Roll Express. You guys just a nice little weird acting tag team. Okay, that's what we're on today.
No, it's a good look.
Not everybody can watch their favorite team lose to the Hornets at home.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, why not pile on?
I wasn't going to say anything
in true
about the Hornets.
That's fine.
White coat form, I do like the fact that you have crossed over to a vanilla brew.
Yeah, so
I'm shocked you find that much better.
We gave it a go.
Out on caramel, in on the vanilla.
I mean, if my history would indicate. There's a little caramel in there in the past.
All those jewels you lost. They the same place my mules are?
Still looking for them.
Yeah.
All right.
No, yeah, we're rocking the vanilla this morning. It is better than the caramel. It's not great, mind you, but it's drinkable.
So how many were in the pack?
It's a 12-pack, DB.
Oh, you got to gut that thing.
Yeah. So only 4 of them are caramel, and I found out good news last night. Natasha actually doesn't mind the caramel. So
okay,
so
you have caramel, vanilla, and
mocha, I think.
Oh yeah, you out on mocha too.
It's pretty dark.
Damn.
The coffee is pretty dark. The coffee is pretty dark.
Good morning.
Listen, I don't know what you're talking
about. Fine. I know what what we're on today.
Mocha coffee is pretty dark compared to the vanilla or even the caramel.
Good morning again.
That's all I'm saying.
Where's my man? I need to go say hi to Cam. Give him a love touch.
What up, Cam Bam?
So you know what's funny?
What's that?
Typically it's supposed to get warmer as the day goes on, right?
Yeah.
For whatever the reason, the sun, maybe it's the albedo, like the reflectivity.
Okay.
But it seems like it's lighter out earlier.
Well, that we're in that part of the year.
No, not yet. Not yet.
I mean, it's lighter than it has been.
Bro, it's not the summer is what I'm saying.
No,
right?
I get that.
It's 5:50.
I do think with the snow and the reflection on the snow,
Okay.
it does stay
So you may be vibing
lighter.
with
Yeah, no, I get you. Anytime there's snow on the ground, there's
about lighter. But so when I first got up, my thermostat, because the furnace and AC, we had to do the whole damn thing last summer. And it said -7.
Oh, that's warmer than mine said.
It's about 40 minutes. It's about 6:15 now, and I looked and it said -10.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I've never seen. Well, granted, it's only been 8 months, but I've never seen -10.
Yeah. Doesn't happen a lot, fortunately. Otherwise, I probably would move.
I mean, that's a.
Mine when I woke up said -13.
Yeah.
Which I'm not a fan of.
Every time I, with this cold, I need it to warm up a little. I'm not interested in 45s and 50s next week. Hopefully that comes and goes. But
what's wrong with you?
It's too early.
No, it's not.
Hey,
1 week of this is plenty. Let's get out of here. Let's keep it stepping.
No, I don't want it like this.
Let's keep stepping.
This is.
Can we compromise on like 30s?
My mom sent me a message yesterday, and she goes, "Please have me committed if I ever talk about being too hot again."
I'm okay.
Oh Lord. I said, no, that's not happening. But I do want to be able to, because all my cooking equipment, the Blackstone, the barrel,
all outside,
my outdoor oven, aka old school raggedy Traeger, and my little Weber is all outside.
Yeah.
Cooked a lot inside lately.
Yeah, it really limits your options.
Yeah. And I don't know if I would be that neighbor that brings his apparatus in the front yard. Some people are okay with that.
Yeah.
I am not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to. But I do need to get some things done outside that I'm craving.
I mean, Saturday, you're good to go.
Saturday, I'm kind of gone.
Sunday?
I got wrestling early, and then I'm in Fairfield.
Sunday. Should be okay Sunday.
Yeah. All I need is like...
You'll have a window. You'll have some...
I need 15 to 20. Oh, I can manage 15 to 20.
You'll have plenty of time then. You might, if you only need 15 to 20, you might be okay tomorrow.
As long as there's no wind, I can even use my little Weber kettle.
That's the...
and it's closest to the house.
That's the most Nebraska thing you've ever said is, if it weren't for the wind, it wouldn't be so bad.
Is that very Nebraska?
Oh, yeah.
No,
it's a very Midwestern sentiment.
I just don't like to have things burn up that aren't supposed to.
So
and my little, it's not even a Weber, it's a knockoff. I got it at a thrift store off of 96th.
Okay.
Like you can just stuff is just priced cheap.
Yeah.
So, I got the grill for $40.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and it acts like a $40 grill.
Well, maybe not so nice.
It's like if I have a big piece of meat on there, the grate may get tilted a little. You have to put it on there just right.
Got balance.
It's all about balance. But that's a great store, by the way. I should take you in there one day.
Tomorrow, you're going to get 15 to 20 degrees for a window tomorrow.
I know, but I just won't.
You won't be home?
I won't be around. I will not be around.
Oh, no.
What?
Asian Wyatt's calling in about Red Panda.
Oh, no. Is he on delay?
He might be. Because he listens to the pod a lot, I think.
Oh, poop.
We got to get this in here.
Oh, boy.
Asian Wyatt, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, I'm sorry I missed the Red Panda conversation yesterday. I didn't see the bamboo signal that you guys put up yet. You were talking about that.
But I want you to know that was all Robbie. Like, the tape don't lie. Like, I don't know what he was doing, but, man, get that guy.
What do we got?
Well, I was getting two little half Asian girls ready for preschool or daycare, so that was keeping me busy. But
hey, do they mind the wet? Like, how are they in the mornings going to and from? Are they cool?
As far as the weather, or just getting ready?
Yeah, no. I know you got your hands full there. The weather.
The weather. They like, I'm a cold weather person. I mean, not this cold, but they seem, they're like, I'm like, put on your jacket. They're like, no, I don't want to put them on, and they'll just run outside and go. So it's a little bit of a not a struggle, but they'll put their coats on if I really make them, but they don't seem to mind the cold.
All right, so talk to me about Red Panda. What's up?
Oh, okay. Well, just to make it real quick, I know you got other sports stuff to talk about.
Not really.
I mean, we can put off Nebraska, Penn State for as long as we need to.
Well, just to make it quick, the saying goes, Asians don't raisin. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
See, I didn't know that
one. I did not know that.
Okay.
All right. What? So do we have permission, Wyatt, or is that kind of a you thing?
Oh, no, it's cool.
All right.
Although, I'm still kind of the Twinkie, so I don't know if I can.
Oh, Lord.
That's Wyatt said that, not us. I will make that clear.
Wyatt, stay warm out there today, buddy.
Hey, thank you for the Christmas card, by the way, Wyatt. That was really nice.
Yeah. Glad all three of the ladies are the best looking ones in the photo, Wyatt. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I know. Hey, gotta do my best.
Appreciate it, Wyatt.
I did my best.
I'm just saying, if you're the best looking one in your family photo, you did something wrong.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would. Although, I would agree. There's some narcissists out there, but I would agree. Oh, man. I'm already in the YouTube comment sections because they always jump off early. Man, KP is a nut.
What's he doing?
But he puts his smoker like in the garage, and he pulls it out when he wants to smoke.
Okay.
But I've kind of seen I've seen like some mowing pictures and stuff, so I get kind of how and where he lives,
like how his setup is.
Yeah, he's wide open.
So here's my question.
So if I was like that, I probably.
So you're saying there's like some land around his house?
Yeah, he's got big yard.
Okay. So here's my question, and this might be dumb, but I don't really cook outside. So, what does putting the grill in the front help?
Like full disclosure.
Like, yeah, why would that help you in the cold?
I think it's a cultural thing.
Okay.
I really do. I think Some feel more comfortable because it's just kind of what they've done. Like my OC,
Yeah.
like Sikora keeps his stuff in the garage.
Okay. But I mean, like, what would be? Because you said, like,
I just
is it warmer in the front of the house? Like, that's what I'm not
no.
understanding.
He'll pull like in the garage, and then like pull it out.
Yeah.
So typically, like it's not like it's warmer in the front than in the back, but a lot of people can get away with cooking kind of under.
Oh, so you like it breaks the wind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because that's what I was not understanding. Because like, are you in the garage when you're using the grill?
So I mean, I'm just kind of listening. He's like, I keep my smoker in the garage and then roll it out when I smoke. He said this way, when I smoke, you can watch sports in the garage. Now smoking is different because, especially I don't know what he's got, if he's got like pellet or charcoal or whatever, but if it's an electric, you can kind of set it and forget it. So once you push that thing out,
you can go back inside and
chill.
Leave it.
I want a grill. Like that's what I want.
So you have to like be attentive to it.
Yeah, I want like a good steak. I found these. I want like a good whole chicken that I can cut up. I have some knives that are nice toys, so I like to cut things. Like I know how to cut.
That's a panty dropper
for sure, baby.
So I'm just noticing here. Why do we have Trader Trev up today? What's happening here?
Oh, why do we have Trevor up?
Yeah,
we have
nothing would please me more.
I mean, if we had Moose up here, I would think maybe it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I don't like what's happening here.
We're talking about contrasting styles.
Okay,
just contrasting leadership styles.
That's one way to put it.
Maybe a theme for the show.
Ooh.
In some way, shape, or form. Whether it's how to run a baseball organization, whether it's what you do with your professional franchises, whether you're a CEO type coach. It could be it's a philosophical thing.
Oh, okay.
Is that deep?
No, that's fine. I was just curious. I just looked up at our stream and saw Trev's ugly mug up there. So I was like, hey, what's going on?
Oh, that's a little harsh.
Yeah, it's fine.
So you just no problems, just hammering my friends, huh?
Yeah, not at all.
We needed to do something.
It's not something we really understand, to be honest with you.
I mean, I've seen some of the people you keep company with, and so I'm like, maybe he needs a little bit. Maybe he needs a little discernment on some of those guys.
Wow. Do you wake up like this?
Once I get the blood flowing a little bit, yeah.
You're like, yeah. Speaking of blood flow, you're like, how can I be the biggest Richard head ever? Now, it's funny that those two things go together.
That part comes naturally.
Is there a reason why his head is bigger? I mean, maybe it's just the way it looks on screen.
No, that's my man Terry.
It does seem inflated.
I forget. So I hate to I don't want to dominate this segment by cooking.
That's fine.
But it's in my wheelhouse. I did not know my man JB had a Masterbuilt. Masterbuilt is what my man Brett just bought.
Oh, okay.
And so they have heavy tops.
Yeah.
And you can get the high sear, and you can smoke, and he's got like the 600. And that if I could have, like, if I was going to go have a nice, buy myself if I was going to pull a Mitch Sherman, I certainly wouldn't get a snowblower. I'd go get a Masterbuilt.
You're not going to bring it in the house, though, right?
Yes.
I can't make any promises. I put the trigger together in the house.
Don't even think about it.
But it wasn't 100 pounds.
Yeah.
No,
that's getting after a little bit.
That's a good haul.
Yeah.
It's a good haul.
Yeah. The only I don't have any fancy grilling equipment. We've just got one of those black Webers.
Yeah. No, that's probably, I call her my old reliable.
Like the traditional.
It's like the little kettle.
Yep.
Yeah. Like that's foolproof.
Yeah. Natasha will use it to cook stuff up every once in a while.
And before I found my drum pretty cheap, I would smoke on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I could strategically set it up. I'd have a hot spot, cool. Like I could manage my kettle like that.
That's I don't know how to do any of that, but if I need a good steak or something, Natasha gets out there and takes care of it.
There's so many things I want to say, but I just don't want to. I mean, I really, really respect her. I just don't know if I could do that.
I mean, she does this professionally. It'd be stupid for me to do it.
So she's good with a flame too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to give you the side eye.
There's basically nothing she can't, like, anything you need her to cook, she can do at a professional level.
I wonder if can she salvage?
Salvage what? Like title?
I have a brisket.
Okay.
And the vacuum seal is a smidge loose. I was rearranging my freezer yesterday. And I'm like, I got to use this thing pretty quick.
Yeah. She's going to tell you to throw that away.
Oh, she's out. She thinks I'm throwing that away. No, I'm going to do something with that.
If there's any question.
Even if I cut it off and ground it down, it's not a ton.
Even if there's any question of food safety or like anything like that,
there's no fun in it.
Tossing it.
There's no fun in that.
Well, there's also no botulism in that.
So the wings that you got, was that Saturday?
Yeah, or Friday. Saturday. I don't know.
Mike had just finished the last 3 yesterday.
Were they in the fridge at any point?
Yeah, they got there.
How long did it take for those wings to get in the fridge?
Just a day. They were in by Sunday. I told you that place has a great resealable.
Is it self-refrigerating?
I'm not. Okay. You're not about to. I feel like I'm getting my hands slapped a lot in this first 15 minutes. I'm not having it. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but I'm going to talk tough. Eat your Crustable. Hey, I'm not having it until you utter something else stupid in the next 60 seconds. It's a shot. So, yeah, I'm trying to delay this whole Nebraska basketball thing. The women, they got a good win at Oregon.
Alexis went off?
Yeah.
Markowski was 35?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bucket.
And I had forgotten that it was still going, and
because that was a late one.
Yeah, Brett came over and he was like checking it on his phone.
Yeah.
Because he didn't come over until like 7:30.
Okay.
And
he waited until after the men's game was over, I see.
No, he had to drop some stuff off in Central City.
Oh, gotcha.
With Parker before they left, and then they've got hotel. They're staying downtown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a helicopter. I wouldn't get in it for very long.
Are they staying at Natasha's hotel?
Maybe.
Okay, we can talk about it
later. Is she the S or the H? No, the S is the H. I don't want to like.
No, it's fine. We'll talk about it later. No, it was the women got a nice win.
Ryan is staying at her Terry.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, women got a nice win last night. Was it 94-90?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And it was a gutty one.
Yeah.
Gutty one.
It was did not come easy.
You make fun of my kid's cup of ice?
No, listen, that's what we got here.
You're now making me very insecure.
Oh, don't be insecure. Just because I make fun of you doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I'm with Andrew. My man AR. Smoking on a kill isn't too hard. I did have to. It was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, you got to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, lot of trial and error. And there is this is, again, super nerdy. I'm going to get off of this.
No, that's fine.
Like different, whether you're a charcoal guy or a wood.
Like a pellet?
Not necessarily pellets. I'm thinking like flame to smoke.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about pellets.
Gotcha.
I'm not anti-pellet.
Because you can smoke with pellets, right?
Yeah, a lot of people do. It's not my thing.
Okay.
If I had a
preference. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy.
The briquette things. It looks like lighter pieces of charcoal. They're like misshapen.
Yeah, it almost looks like wood chips.
Yeah, bigger though.
Oh, okay.
Bigger. But that's kind of my go-to.
Mm.
But I stocked up on charcoal, so I'm using it.
I think I prefer charcoal.
Yeah, well, I tried the slow burn to do a couple steaks a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely a slow burn.
Yeah.
You have to. But now I like the challenge.
You use propane for anything?
No. The Blackstone.
Okay.
But that's a quickie.
Yeah. Just how's that go?
A little bit of that W side.
I just don't, what sound are you mimicking there? Like I don't know what
when you first.
When you turn the burners okay. Yeah. Okay. It's like it's the igniting.
Yeah, I'm not doing it again.
No, I really didn't know what noise you were making or what you were trying to imitate.
I am in the courthouse now, Your Honor. Permission to treat him as a hostile witness.
What'd I do?
And you're on our team.
Just do it.
I got my Captain America armor on now.
I'm not gonna. There's a joke there. I'm not gonna make. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna do it.
You can't help yourself.
I'm not gonna
By
do
the
it.
time you say I'm not going to make it, you're going to make it.
I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard not to do it.
By the way, do you want to set up the show?
Yeah, we've got a good show coming up for you. I mean,
I'm pretty excited.
That's a given. But we've got Ron Higdon. He's an associate director for the NSAA, covers wrestling.
A lot of years in a row now.
Coming up at 7:45, he's going to talk to us as the state boys wrestling tournament gets off to a start today. The girls wrapped up yesterday. Terrific event. The CHI looked incredible,
didn't it?
It was packed.
I think 16K they pushed.
That's incredible.
And it was just there. So Shane, you remember when we started this, and we would have these. I got to talk to Ron about this.
Mm-hmm.
We would have these conversations about transitioning from boy. That's a terrible term to use. Some girls were still wrestling boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it was this. There was this fallout and these undertones, and things were just getting ready to go to vote about sanctioned sport. Now, just a few years later, it's its own standalone monster, and it's growing.
And yeah, I think I saw participation's up like 800% over the last 3 years or something.
It's dwarfing basketball.
And obviously, you saw the crowd at CHI last night. If you're following along our NEB Preps accounts or anything like that. You saw great coverage. Big Game Chain was out there.
Yeah, and there was some spectacular. I mean, shout out to the Barbers and Westside went 1 for 3 in their title chase last night. But man, you gotta shout out Kaylin Lyons from Westview.
Yeah, from Westview.
Oh my goodness,
because she's only been wrestling a few years.
3.
And then knocks off a 3-time state champ.
Yeah, Macy Peacher.
Who
is an absolute wagon.
And so, there's a part of me that is like, oh, man, that's a great story. That's awesome. And then I also feel for Peacher because of the
4-time.
Yeah, because that's such a huge
it's hallowed ground
accomplishment. And you sit there and you go, man, that's an awesome story for Lions and Westview and that whole thing, right? And then on the other hand, I'm a little heartbroken for Peacher because that's such that's her whole high school career right there. And I hope, I think this about a lot of people, but I hope she doesn't feel in the moment she's gonna be disappointed, right? Obviously, but I hope she doesn't feel like her career was a failure because she didn't get.
And I don't know if you watched it, but taking the platform for the medal ceremony, they wear it differently.
Yeah.
Than the guys do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at facial expressions and either level of excitement or level of disappointment, it's different.
Yeah, for sure.
But the cool thing is can you imagine coming out to, because when the ceremony starts, they come out to "We Are the Champions," right? It's "I paid my dues."
Yeah.
The lights kind of dimming, and it's it'll give you chills.
Yeah,
man. I got chills throughout my body.
All right, T-Mart.
Yeah, so I can't wait to talk to Higgy.
Yeah, so
a lot of years running.
We'll talk to Ron Higdon at 7:45. At 8:45, we'll talk to Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. At 9, we've got Michael Bruntz, Husker247, and we've got a little Husker247 double dip today. We'll get to Mike Schaefer at about 9:40, replacing his Tuesday time. And I think we're going to have another edition of True or Delulu. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. Here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Nebraska's trying to find a way to get back into the win column after last night. The NDOT just wants you to find a way to get to and from where you're going safely, whether it's making sure you got that seatbelt clicked or making sure your eyes are peeled straight forward and ahead. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Let's keep it safe on the roads out there.
You want me to grow up?
No, I think you're good.
If
you got super mature on me all of a sudden, I don't know how much fun we'd have.
Yeah. That'd be pretty boring.
Well, also, I think you would put up with my nonsense a lot less.
Oh, that's wild. T-Mac was like, I knew as soon as you said black, he was going to say something. I told him, too. I was like, I'll get him. It's got to come within the natural flow of the combo. I can't
force it.
I can't force being funny, but I will end up annihilating before it's over.
I know
Just don't leave your boy any scraps, man.
I know my time is due.
Speaking of the NDOT, you know how sometimes you have to kind of get scared into things?
Oh, sure.
So for
to make behavioral changes?
Right.
Yeah.
So the light skin guy, Apostrophe, was just telling a story about how he went cold turkey basically from really not drinking it.
Yeah.
He was covering an accident in Albuquerque, and somebody had come through the windshield, and he was kind of traumatized. And this was early, so you're talking like early 2000s for me talking to him.
Yeah,
because he hadn't been here that long. So this is probably like 05 maybe or 6. And so from about that point, I was just getting ready to get rid of Acura, my TL. Like I kind of was a seatbelt guy.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of transitioned. And listening to you talk about the NDOT and like the settlement, the $30,000 that the airline is offering to the passengers in Canada.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Because we've all been here. And Shane, I know you don't fly or haven't flown or whatever, but can you imagine? And I do this all the time. I just did it coming back from Chicago.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I am not wearing my seatbelt. It's only, and I joked with Coach Lamanji. I said, it's only good for identification. Can you imagine not having your seatbelt on and the plane turns upside down?
Yeah.
But the difference if you had your seatbelt on and the plane turned upside down?
Yeah.
I'll be wearing my seatbelt on the plane.
Man, I do.
Chalk it. I'm the dude that's so childish. The lady will come by and tap me.
Yeah.
And when I'm with Nebraska, they like, okay, yeah, they do. They make sure you have your seatbelt on. But anyway, so like when you're like they tap you, and she'll like move the buckle or hold it in front of my face. Something you would do, like I don't know how to buckle it. And so like I'll fake snap it like a 4-year-old. Like just buckle the goddamn seatbelt. Not that hard.
You know what I used to do when I was a kid? I would, for whatever reason.
So shout out NDOT.
And this isn't, we love the NDOT. Also, we love wearing our seatbelts. But when I was a kid, for whatever reason, I didn't want to wash my hands. I'm like real young. I'm like 4 years old. Didn't want to wash my hands.
Yeah.
So I would turn the water on, fake wash my hands. Like I would rub my hands together so I knew how long.
If you're going to do all that, why don't you just wash them?
I don't know. I don't have a good reason. I was a kid, right? But I would like turn the water on. I'd rub the hands together so I knew how long I needed to leave the water running. And then I would turn it off, pretend to dry my hands.
Although I'm not going to lie to you, even as an adult, man, I've wanted to do that sometimes if it's a hand dryer. I'm like, man, I don't want to get my hands wet. I already need lotion after industrial soap.
I do hate hand dryers.
So it's like, I don't want to walk around with like Skeletor hands.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I don't really wash.
But I didn't touch nothing.
Like, damn, baby. I only touch myself. We better stop. No,
but that's what your fake seatbelt reminded me of. Is like when I was a kid.
There's no reason. Like, just put the gosh darn thing on.
It's like you did the time to do the thing. It's
and so they were interviewing these people, and the lady was like, "So you were just suspended in midair?" And the guy, he's like, got this bloodshot eye. It's like clearly he's been traumatized. He's got the vessel broke, and he's like, "Well, just wasn't suspended. I was strapped in by my seatbelt," whatever his accent was. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a seatbelt guy."
Yeah, that's a good call.
I mean, not that I want my plane to turn over, but
you never know.
Well, with faulty landing gear, would you take the 30K? You haven't seen Landman, but this is a Landman question.
So if they're in general. If they're offering something to you before you have sued them, you should sue them for more.
You sound like
I'm just saying.
You haven't seen Landman.
No, but if they're trying to cut that thing off at the pass before you even get into litigation, go ahead and sue because it's worth way more. Because this is a risk mitigation thing. Like this is my wheelhouse. Like if I'm a company, my risk mitigation is, hey, I'm trying not to lose millions here. I'm going to offer something in front to try and get out ahead of it so that I don't have a big loss on the back end. Right? So if they're offering you $30,000 and no one's even filed a lawsuit yet, and I don't know how Canada works with like lawsuits and stuff like that, so it might be different than America.
So you'd wait it out.
100%.
Because the litigation would take a while.
It'd take years, 100%. But is there anything, I mean, I know there were injuries, but nobody passed away in that incident.
Miracle.
Right? Yeah, it's incredible. But
is that Mike and the Mechanics, Shane?
All I need is a miracle.
Is that Mike and the Mechanics?
All I need is Mike and the Mechanics.
I love that song, actually.
I'm telling you, I would beat Amber's ass in that game.
Natasha and I play a game on like Alexa where it's a guess that song game.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
No, I'm that's full cab. I would not beat her.
No, she seems like a full-on savant with the music stuff.
I was I asked her. I'm like, John, really? He's like, hey, she's good at Wheel of Fortune too. I was like, oh god,
Don't play Wordle with her.
dude, I love Wheel of Fortune.
I used to watch Wheel of Fortune when I was a kid.
Dude, it's not my favorite, but
Yeah.
it's up there.
I'm more of a,
It's not any good now with different people.
I'm more of a Jeopardy guy myself.
I like
but
Jeopardy.
I love Jeopardy.
I like Jeopardy.
Follow him on my TikTok.
I had an Alex Trebek question yesterday.
Oh yeah?
Well, the old 67 cover
Yeah.
with the lady in the scantily clad with the two football players.
Yes.
And a guy literally asked me, I can't take these people seriously. He's like, no, seriously, I'm not being sarcastic, but what's wrong with the photo? I'm like, I don't know. It's 2025, and we get pretty mad about objectifying people. And,
Yeah.
It's like we can't even get pronouns right, so let's not get into that would be an applicable cover.
Using the sexuality of a college girl to sell football.
Yeah, pretty sure that's not.
It's a little dicey.
Yeah.
It's a little questionable at best.
I mean, people get into litigation over breathing now.
But yeah, no, I would.
You cut your. Well, you don't know that. You rolled your eyes at me wrong. I would have sued. You made me feel bad. You hurt my feelings.
But yeah, I would definitely sue the airline. Yeah, 100%.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting next to a guy that's talking about 40 acres and a mule. I even really like.
Where's Kendrick? Who? What?
That was funny that resurfaced. I laughed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's funny, but not for the reasons people think. I have a partner that pushes the envelope. I wouldn't have rode with that except for you poked fun at yourself about having the jewels stolen from Taj Mahal.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I still got a beef with the British. That's one thing we have in common. Like handshake meme. F the British, you know? Like
So anywho, when you listen to Coach Hoiberg talk, we got to get into the whole flush thing and the delivery.
Flush it.
Of how fine a line is it between being indifferent and moving on versus being pissed? Because miraculously, that right hand seemed to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Nothing on it last night.
Yeah, I didn't see any residual damage.
You can only go to that well how many times to motivate your team?
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
at some point they got to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Coming up next,
just ask guys at UConn.
For sure. I mean, Danny Hurley, that song's getting pretty old.
That's Caravan that said it too.
100%. Ron Higdon coming up next, talk a little prep wrestling. Don't worry, we will get to Nebraska basketball. We've got 8 o'clock wide open to talk about that debacle. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Make sure you come check it out. You know, if you're watching games or something. I know DB loves the wings. I love he calls them saucy chicken nuggets, but I like the boneless wings. Tons of good food. I'm
tempted to see what the fried chicken
that's what I was just going to say. That looked good.
Oh, I thought you'd like the Kiss Martini.
I mean, I'll take a good martini every once in a while. Every once in a while, you know.
I don't believe in diluting good alcohol. That's okay. PSA kids aren't in school yet. Or at all today.
Joining us, speaking of school, joining us now is Ron Higdon. He is the assistant director of the NSAA in charge of wrestling, a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
But wrestling,
the ambassador.
Wrestling is what we're focused on today. Ron, how are you this morning?
Good morning, fellas. I'm doing well, thank you.
Ron, good morning, man. It feels like we've been doing this for a while now. I had to chuckle. Just watching the girls' state tournament. It wasn't too long ago. You and I were talking about boys wrestling girls and opting out of matches, and it hadn't gone to vote yet for a sanctioned sport at the high school level. And a few years later, I'll call it a few. I'm sure some of your grays are due to the duration. But you're selling $16K in tickets. They've got their own night, and it is a fantastic event. You taking some time yet to just take it in?
I slept pretty hard last night, guys.
Well, you had all the grins going. It's like I'm like, could this guy rub more shoulders? It must be rough being well liked. At some point, you'll have to tell me what that's like.
Yeah, it was an event, fellas. I mean, really pleased with the outcome. Exceeded expectations. I wasn't sure what the crowd would be like. Everybody at the beginning was like, that facility's way too big for the girls to have a standalone tournament, and I think that we proved them wrong. And the fans that came and the excitement that we had was off the charts.
Ron, so I know obviously the girls had an incredible turnout for their tournament. We expect another incredible turnout for the boys tournament this weekend as well. I know a lot of times as somebody that works for the NSAA, you guys go to a lot of different workshops and conferences around the country. Have you gotten a sense for, I guess, how unusual the enthusiasm is for the state wrestling tournaments here in Nebraska? Like, how much of it feels like a huge outlier based on just other places I've seen online, but like, have you gotten a sense for how special this tournament is to Nebraska?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk several times over the last several years about, like, what's it like for you? Here's what you do, and then when I tell them what kind of viewership we have, and then they see people that they know that go to our tournament and then go to theirs, and they're like, wow, you guys need to step it up. It kind of makes me feel proud that in Nebraska, we're in the middle of, Big Ten wrestling country, that we can do that for a state the size of Nebraska, and to have the kind of following that we have. It is special, and it is unusual. I mean, honestly, per capita, I would venture to say we might be number one as far as, our population base is compared to our viewership and, fans coming. So I stick my chest out about that, not because of me, but because of our state and everything that, goes with it, and the kids that get to experience a happening of a lifetime for them, something that they'll talk about for the rest of their life. That's what makes me the most proud, and really strives. That's the internal burn for me to keep getting better.
Yeah. So, that's interesting, because just knowing you for as long as I have, and wrestlers in general, there's this protocol, there's procedure, there's a way to do things. And one of the cool things I think that's in watching you is your willingness to evolve and adapt. It's not really a wrestling thing by like mental makeup, but it's cool because you've had to. It's almost like growing your portfolio, right? You want to be all things and still keep the integrity of the sport. That blend has had to be difficult, but it looks like it's been almost mastered.
Oh, it is. You know what? It's an intentional. You have to make yourself do it, because honestly, the thing that I can't stand the most is when somebody asks why, and they say that's just because that's all the way we've always done it. That so drives me insane. And so I had a fantastic mentor, probably the best that can be out there, and he was like that. Even at his age later on, I was marveled by his willingness to take a chance. And you know what happens when you're an event coordinator and you implement new things or make a bunch of changes and stuff like that? Anxiety comes with it, because the more you change, the more things can go wrong. Mm-hmm. And so we really try to be meticulous about, our changes and trying to make it good. And not everything works the way you think it's going to, but for the most part, we've been very fortunate to have a great team and be able to implement some really cool stuff for these kids.
It's going to happen in droves today as the boys get started. I'm sure you were excited to know that a boat show is in very close proximity to you. You're navigating the weather. I reached out a couple of days ago with ticket sales and helping some guys get down to see some of the guys. Is this where you thought this venue would be in 2025, with the demand and the space that you need and the orchestrating that you have to go through?
Well, I was looking just last week, and I saw some old pictures from, I take pictures every year and look at them. And there was some pictures of these little kids up on the last row. And I remember in 2015, 16, 17, 18, those years, I was giving away hundreds of tickets to kids clubs. You contact me, we'll just give you tickets for the finals, and give you tickets. Now I can't do that because the demand is so high. But I think that lended to, maybe some kids getting to see what happens here, and they're like, I want to be a part of that kind of stuff. And so I'm not saying that that's why we grew, but it makes me feel proud that we were there and we're here now. And so, yeah, it has evolved. And the facility itself is the staff. We deal with a lot of staffs across we have 28 different state championships and the staffs and the venues and stuff. This is the premier venue, the premier staff. It's the gold standard here at CHI. And for us to be able to work with them, they rarely, if ever, say no to me when I have new ideas. They scratch their head sometimes, but they're fantastic to work with, and I can't give them enough props because a lot of the stuff we do comes from them working their butts off for me, me asking for something.
So, Ron, obviously a lot of your attention has to go to getting the event planned and all the strategic and logistics planned out. How much do you get to pay attention to some of the storylines coming into a state tournament like this, where you've got, the biggest one with Tyson?
Well, how about we gotta go back to last night. I hate to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
the mixed emotions as a wrestler, Ron. It's in your blood where you see like lions and the joy there, but then you think, oh my goodness, with Macy, that's a 4-time opportunity. Like, how you got to manage your feelings given your history. Like, is that what not makes this thing so good?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can put a bracket out, seed it, whatever. They still got to go out there and compete. And that's what. And I think that I know that people underestimate the kind of pressure that Peacher was under, because you see these people that, they act like it's nothing. It's something. And the pressure that's added to just trying to win it, but trying to win it for the 4th time, is unbelievable. And for a young lady to have to go through that, and it's tough to watch. It really is. But on the other side, the joy that you see of somebody like Lyons being able to, capture her dream and do what she's always been working for and striving for. It is mixed emotions. You feel for them, but the joy of seeing her do that too, that's what it's about. That's why we do it.
Ron, you're talking about kind of the challenge of staying locked in mentally, and because this is obviously in wrestling, if you lose focus for a half second, like, you can be in deep trouble. But can you talk about how challenging it is physically for a guy like Tyson Terry to win a state championship as a heavyweight as a freshman? Like, I understand this is it. He would be the first one to do 4 in a row. But can you kind of give us a little glimpse into how unbelievable it is to be that good at that weight class as that young of an athlete?
Yeah, it's very difficult. About the middle weights, when you get to the 40s and 50s, when you're a freshman, to win it, any of those upper weights as a freshman is pretty remarkable. And it's a testament to, the athleticism and just, I don't know. It's special. I tell you guys, it's special. It does not happen very often. If you look at the Hutmacher, similar, but they're special. They're just special athletes, and they don't come along very often. So that's awesome to be a part of our event as well.
Let me ask you something about, and I want to tie this into officiating and growing with the sport, right? I talk about Ziola all the time, where a guy with that kind of length that, can head snap and still be thinking like ankle pick, like at the same time, where it's just rare to see some of the evolution of what these guys can do athletically. Lauritsen's bend or Terry's agility, where the sport is evolving because the athletes are evolving. How impressed have you been with the officiating? Because it changes too. I get the sense, I was talking to Martinez a couple of weeks ago at a youth event, and he said his eyes had to change with what young kids are capable of doing on the mat that he didn't see just 6, 7, 8 years ago.
He's exactly right. It's more difficult to officiate, particularly because of the scrambling. The scrambling has changed the styles of wrestling for almost everybody. And if you're not willing to evolve with that, then you're going to be left behind. And I see kids at the youth age that, I watch them and I just marvel, because when I wrestled in college, I was I never even saw guys do that in college. And these kids are doing some remarkable things. So the officiating part of it is I think it's still fun for them, but it is more challenging because it's not robotic, double leg finish, like it's not. So I think that we have to intentionally talk about it and talk about holding your calls a little bit more because of the scrambling. But they're getting more used to it. Wrestling has evolved so much. I mean, in the last 10 years even, it's evolved even more, and it drifts from the highest levels and comes down. And now all that scrambling and grabbing ankles all the time is in the youth levels, and that never seemed to happen. We were, I don't want to say stuck in the mud, but we were the same for so many years. Yeah. And for it to evolve the way it has in the last 10 to 15 years and you know what it does? It's exciting. It's more exciting to watch because, those scrambles and wrestling on the edge and then, the point changes for scoring, all of that has made it more exciting in my mind.
I want to talk about that for a second because, whether it's 4 points for a takedown or out of bounds, just needing a portion. There have been some subtle rule changes, but we saw last night in particular where the point value in takedowns can be monumental too. It is a very traditional sport. How were some of those rule changes received to help with the evolution of the athleticism?
I'm glad you asked that because I'm on the National Rules Committee, and we had the discussion, and college went to, different scoring over the last couple of years. And in the discussions, the people at the NFHS, we don't need a lot of changes. High school wrestling is in a great place. And so I just brought it up. I just said, all right, guys, let's talk about this. What sport scores differently in college than in high school? And we couldn't come up with one. And we're like, no, we don't have to follow them and everything, but in scoring, I think we do because of the casual fan and trying to keep them engaged from one level to the next. I remember when freestyle, the international style, was changing rules every year, and me as a lifelong wrestler, I stopped watching it. It was different, and it was like, every year the scoring was different, and I'm like, I don't even know why this score is what it is. So to be consistent specifically for the casual fan is, I think, important. And then to answer your second part of the question, the feedback has been unbelievable. If you think about it, you have a takedown for 2, escape for 1, it's 2-1. Takedown for 2, escape 4-2. Takedown, escape, it's 6-3 in the first period. Domination. The person who wins the flip, chooses down, they get an escape. It's 6-4. You're one takedown. You've been dominated, and you can still tie the match with one move. So now that scoring is a little bit different. And we talked about if you're going to do something for somebody that's good on their feet and try to, give them incentive to score on their feet, you got to do the same for the bottom. And so that's why we changed both of those along with the out of bounds. Guys, it was monumental changes for the sport.
I agree.
The rules committee made the changes this year, which was 3-point takedown, 4-point near fall, and 1 point of contact all in 1 year. That takes 20 plus years to get. Though 3 of them passed, we did it all in 1 year. So it has been, I have heard nothing but positive feedback. Not one single negative comment has come to me since the changes. So I think that they were good moves. The thing now is what's the next big change? I think we're in a great place now. I think we are. So I don't know what that next big change is going to be, but this has been fantastic.
I wondered if the 4 overtime with Addie last night would have got you guys to, because there's always, when you see something immediate, the knee-jerk thing is, well, I don't like how that goes in, and then you fill in the blank. In this case, it could be overtime with the 30 seconds and up, down, and then the sudden death. Is that something that has been on the table?
No, we haven't talked about that at all. And it doesn't happen very often. I don't disagree with you. I 100% don't disagree.
Well, that's the first time that I had seen it to go that long. I mean, they had to be gassed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And really, the one who wins the flip, it could be the one who wins the flip.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. I don't know what the answer to that would be, but it happens so rarely that it's not usually a topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm. All right. Speaking of flip, how excited are you, or how much have you given thought? How are you going to start on Saturday if seats hold there's a ton of storylines with where we're going to start in weight classes.
Well, at this point, we have the ability to make some changes. Right now, we haven't determined that we're going to start at any other weight class other than 106.
Okay.
So that's where we're at right now. The masses, when we were making those changes, really, talk about trying something new, trying to make it the highlight match and whatever. That didn't really go over that well. So my hope is that, Tyson's matches could be the last ones, and I hope that people are excited enough to stay around and watch it. But we will also be, here's what's happening. Matches are going faster because we're blowing the whistle less.
Yep.
Because of the out of bounds.
You guys blew
Technical
through
fall.
the first round. I couldn't believe the pace on day one for the ladies. Well, it was 2:40 maybe, and some change.
Yeah, it was really fast. But we've seen that all year long. You're blowing the whistle for out of bounds less. You're getting to technical falls faster, and so all of that lends to efficiency. And really, we've seen it in the regular season, along with the rule that we changed about 3 years ago, going from 45-minute rest to 30-minute rest. That also helps us because we were wrestling, taking a break, wrestling, taking a break, and now you can keep rolling. So all of that has sped up wrestling at the regular season, and we saw it in the girls as well. Our sessions were, we kind of predicted it would be a little bit faster, but it was faster than what we thought.
Fantastic.
That's Ron Higdon, Assistant Director of the NSAA and in charge of wrestling. Ron, best of luck over the next few days. I hope everything goes smooth sailing, just crystal clear waters for you, and that you have a great tournament.
You ever need anything from us, you got one of your biggest advocates right in your hip pocket.
I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for letting me be on.
You got it.
Absolutely. That's Ron Higdon from the NSAA. Coming up next, we should probably get into Nebraska basketball.
Let's do it
at some point. It might be time to rip the Band-Aid here on Hurrdat Sports Live. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. We're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and I think it's finally time to talk about Nebraska basketball.
Buckets.
I think we have to.
By the way,
I think we have to.
Big Ron Higdon guy. Just like to say that.
Yeah, no, Ron's great.
Are you afraid of change? Because I'm going to get into one with basketball that we talked about off air.
Mm-hmm.
Like rules changes can be tricky.
Yeah, they really can.
What's the one thing I asked you about a couple of weeks ago? If you want to change the way that we don't like
about the NBA,
NBA or college, maybe not so much, but
NBA is worse.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
What did I ask you? Could you see being implemented?
Changes to the 3-point line.
3-point line.
In some form or fashion. I don't know what that looks like, right? Because, and it wouldn't be unprecedented. The NBA, I don't know if people remember, in the 90s, they moved the 3-point line in like 2 feet.
Yeah.
And that's
was that when it went to 19.9?
I think it was a little longer than that. 19.9 was the college line. I think it was a foot further back than that. So I think it was like 29 or 21.2, something like that. But if you look at all the percentages in the mid 90s, I think it's 95, 96. I think it's Jordan's first year back from baseball. Like the numbers are all skewed for that reason.
And they've done some different things, right? Mm-hmm. With, cylinder, the verticality.
I mean, the lane's not the same shape that it always was.
Restriction.
The restricted circle. Like they've made these types of changes before. Obviously, the biggest one was like a defensive 3 seconds was a huge change to allow to open up the lane a little bit. Like they've made changes to the structure of the game before in order to get their desired results and what the game should look like.
How about being able to play zone?
Yeah, zone was a big one. The ability to play zone was a big one. And this is so like it's not unprecedented is my point. And we saw it in baseball with the banning of the shift. They wanted the game to look a certain way.
Pitch clock. So
they made changes to make the game look the way they wanted it to. The hand checking is a big thing. They wanted more freedom of movement. And so they banned hand checking on the perimeter. Like this is not unprecedented by any sense. We see it with the NFL. Like they wanted a more wide open passing league. They made it harder to hit receivers and harder to hit quarterbacks.
I feel like something's coming at the collegiate level.
You think so? Collegiate before NBA?
I do.
Because it's worse in the NBA.
Well,
stylistically, I mean.
Well, they're so skilled.
Yeah.
I mean, short of moving the 3-point line back.
Well, that would be the thing. Because here's.
I mean, that's the only real. Excuse me.
That's the easiest.
That's the only real thing I could see in the NBA. In college,
that's the easiest solution. You just have to change the math in the NBA.
I would like to see, like for instance, last night, right? I think held balls, jump balls, possession arrows. Like if you want to speed things up, I think those are the things that you take a look at, especially if it gets. And I'm not going to say the less skilled you are, but the less aesthetically pleasing a game is, it typically has things. It typically centers around those kinds of things.
Sure, the people trying to make the game messier.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of, again, some of the things we talked about with the NBA, some of the changes.
I mean, Nebraska wasn't going to get back in that game in the second half.
No.
Without it being allowed. And they made their little run and then.
Got it down to 16.
And then, if you want to call it that. And then Penn State answered right back. But there's always this stretch where things kind of get out of it. Happened to what was one of my picks? Bama last night against Missouri. When the whistle stops blowing, that's typically when you see teams have the opportunity to get back into a game.
Yeah, because you can find a rhythm.
Right?
Like it's really hard. We were just talking about it with Ron, right? Like with the things move more smoothly because you have fewer whistles in the wrestling tournament.
And I don't want to go back to lament on wrestling, but I can't express how I'm just a big fan of them accepting new ideas in a sport that has been widely regarded as, well, we've always done it that way.
So I
mean, just wrestlers by nature are very much about.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I can't. I'm keep going back and forth on this. I think because you're right with wrestlers. You see this in the U.S. with soccer, where people of, I'm going to call them niche sports.
Yeah, I know you're going to go there.
I know people are not going to like that term, but less mainstream sports.
Okay, that's fine.
Are very protective of their thing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so
the best at gatekeeping.
I think it can be harder to implement changes that would help make the sport more mainstream when you have that. I mean, when volleyball changed to rally scoring is probably one of the most prominent examples of it.
Yeah, we've talked about that, yeah.
Where that changed the trajectory of that sport
dramatically.
We're not talking about 13,000 a clip at Supernovas games. I mean, they did 50,000 in 4 matches so far.
I mean, as a big wrestling guy in general, when a guy was up 9-1,
ball game,
it was over.
I know that's ball game.
And I don't know. It's like, oh shoot, man! Anything can
stay
happen.
Dialed.
Yeah, anything can happen.
It's like basketball.
We saw with my guy Pinto.
Yeah, it's like
right. He's up 9-2, and then all of a sudden, it's 10-9 or whatever, 11-9 into one because he almost got near fall, and it's like, when that whistle doesn't blow, anything can happen.
It's the same thing as in basketball when they introduced the 3-point line. All of a sudden, like a 15-point lead didn't mean that much anymore.
So why is it when we're watching, and we saw a little bit of it last night, depending on what you were watching, where if you don't get a timeout or a stoppage within the TV timeout and it goes like a minute or two longer, sometimes it makes for a better game.
It can, for a while at least. If it goes much longer than that.
Well, we saw Creighton play to like the 13-minute mark a couple of weeks ago.
And it gets a little sloppy sometimes.
Well, I'm sure those guys are gassed.
So that's part of it is I think coaches, especially at that level, condition guys to the TV timeouts.
And I think they coach that way too.
Yes. So they coach to the TV timeouts. They condition
you know
guys.
Exactly what Mac's going to do at around the 12-minute mark, right?
Yeah, at about 12:30, he's going to get Kalkbrenner out of there.
Yep.
He's going to steal about 3 minutes of rest with Fred King in 1 minute of game time. So when that goes longer than that, it pretty dramatically affects.
But I've
the way they coach.
I've never understood, and why I wanted to talk about this as it relates to last night is. Ron said, why would we do something at this level when we don't do it anywhere else? I'm still trying to figure out, and sure, you're going to talk to me about television timeouts and
no, you're going to talk about quarters versus halves.
Why
I'm not
at the collegiate level?
I'm not going to fight you.
Playing halves.
I'm not going to fight you. I don't have a good reason.
Just imagine if that game was played at the quarter.
The
last
women
night.
went to that a few years ago, and it dramatically improved their
You
game.
won't see. Oh, it's fantastic.
It dramatically improved the women's college game.
Like, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see what happened in Nebraska happen if you play quarters.
Yeah.
And it's not a Nebraska thing. Like, here,
No, just in general.
I'm just saying for the betterment of the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't have a good reason. There's not a good reason.
It's the only sport.
High school does quarters. NBA does quarters. WNBA does quarters. Women's college basketball does quarters. I don't have a good reason. It's the same length of game. Women didn't change the length of their game, but it also changes pretty dramatically the bonus and double bonus.
That's fine.
But I'm saying it's a positive.
You have to evolve.
I'm saying it's a positive thing. Like, it changes how that works, and you don't have.
I don't even like watching halves.
No, it doesn't fit my eye in terms of how the game is supposed to flow. But it's I do think, for all the talk about rule changes and things like that, no amount of rule changes was going to help Nebraska hold on to the basketball last night.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, the first 10 minutes of that game.
And you know what's funny? That's exactly what Penn State does.
Yes. It's like they didn't know.
They turn you over.
It's like Nebraska went in there and didn't know. Like, they did not seem prepared for that.
Where did you come out on Coach Hoiberg's demeanor? I mean, that's who he is, right?
Yeah, he's pretty low-key for the most part. That's why I think the Northwestern thing worked. Because when you have a guy that's low in the one-off, I think.
But we heard him say, "Listen, we cannot do what we did in Evanston."
Yeah.
At State College,
Yeah.
you just can't.
And they did exactly.
And they did exactly that.
Maybe worse, honestly. I thought the turnovers were worse. That's one of the. I mean, Raleigh Wooster.
How about
couldn't hold on to the ball?
How about the beginning of
or
the
Hoiberg,
game where
too.
they kept throwing it out of? It was not both teams were doing it. There was a stretch, and it stayed 6-2 or whatever it was early, where it's like, oh, that's a turnover. That's a turnover.
Oh, it was horrible to
That's
watch.
a turnover. Oh, they threw that in the stands. Oh, that one rolled out of bounds.
But the number of live ball turnovers Nebraska.
Well, that didn't happen. That
Oh.
didn't happen until the jinx during the broadcast. Well, I mean, the good thing about it, if you're a Nebraska fan, is these aren't live ball turnovers.
And then the next one
and
is
then
like,
the
oh,
very
there's a live
next
ball
one was a live ball turnover.
Yeah. And then like 4 in a row were after
And then
that.
all of a sudden the lead balloon.
Yeah. It was. But that's as bad as I've seen Nebraska play for a while.
So I get it. Were you equating watching that thing real time to the live ball turnovers and getting like leaky runouts or transition started? Why they gave up so many points in the paint? Because that's a no for Nebraska defensively.
So I think those were two separate things, because even
I don't know. I mean,
even when they weren't giving live ball turnovers, they still had a free track to the hoop.
You're like Ace Baldwin, a.k.a. Moses. You wanted to
anybody.
call him Aaron? I mean, just
Yeah,
the
just
parting.
part the seas.
It was crazy.
But it wasn't just him.
Oh, I know.
It was everybody on that roster, and I don't know if part of it was just Mia being overextended early and not rotating right, but guys weren't defending at the point of attack. They weren't defending on help. They weren't rotating on help the helper. It was a brutal display of keeping guys out of the paint from on penetration. Like, I couldn't believe. The only thing that looked maybe worse was Alabama the last 2 games trying to keep guys out of the paint. It was honestly pretty startling. Like, it was concerning.
Why was there, speaking of turnovers, why was there so many just total misses of the rim, like when they were shooting?
Oh yeah, bad misses.
Yeah.
Well, when Raleigh Wooster thinks it's a good idea to shoot jumpers, like, that's probably not going to go well for you.
I can't believe that's where the vitriol lies.
I'm not just okay. So 2 things. I'm not saying it's all his fault.
Yeah.
Because it's certainly not. But also, when a guy that's not a shooter insists on shooting, that's going to drive me crazy. Just a full stop.
And that's what they hadn't done, right?
Right. The shot selection had been a lot better.
It's almost like.
And I get sometimes when Wooster takes one when he's wide open. Right?
You don't cook, but I so bad every time you say his name. I want to ask you what you call the brown liquid that sometimes people cook with.
The Worcestershire sauce?
The who?
The Worcestershire sauce?
Yeah, wash your sister sauce. What the world?
What do you call it?
A little bit of that W sauce.
That.
You call it the W sauce?
100%. That, right? Beautiful. Well done. Air high five.
Let's go, baby.
I think it depends on what part of the country you're from.
Yeah, W sauce. And now they make it a little thicker, like you can use it as a binder.
Yeah.
I know you don't care, but
Like you keep your
but every time I hear
notebooks
you
in your binder.
They needed a little bit of that W sauce last night.
A little bit of that W sauce.
Have
he
you
just dribbles too much.
have you seen those TikToks where they're like playing the Kendrick Lamar stuff and they're like, oh man, looking for a binder for my, and it's like mustard.
Is that funny,
Shane
Shane?
liked that
He's
one.
an idiot. I wouldn't encourage him at all. Let me ask you something. And you're not afforded the luxury of revisionist history.
All right, I'll do my best.
Did you think, I'll be honest,
Okay.
and answer as fast as you can.
Okay.
Did you think playing Penn State would be a good matchup for Mia?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, so full disclosure.
Okay, that's fine. That's real. I'm not going to talk you into it.
No, so here the reason I said no so quickly is a Mia thing, not a Penn State thing. I don't know that anybody's a good matchup for
Did
Mia.
the matchup?
If I'm getting into like specific matchup, I didn't think it was the worst.
Okay. Me neither.
In general, so here's why I said no so fast. He's played a lot of minutes lately, and I don't trust him in extended minutes, even over multiple games.
Because I don't want you to just be like, well, we talked about at some point there's a threshold where
But that's not just over.
it's being exposed.
Yeah, and that's not just over one game, though. Like, that's over multiple games. You can be overexposed in a game, or you can be overexposed over the course of a few games.
Yeah.
And if you get a little bit of tape on Mia, I think you can see some places you can exploit him, and that's what Penn State did a really good job of. Now, his teammates on the perimeter didn't help him out a lot either, right? Because it's a lot easier to exploit Mia on some of those help situations when there's almost no resistance at the point of attack. But my quick no was mostly because I thought it was a ticking time bomb for Mia to have a really bad night. Like, I just don't think he's a good enough basketball player to play the minutes he's been playing and have a couple good outings in a row. Again, at some point, you kind of are who you are as a basketball player, and Mia's not a young guy. Like, he is who he is as a basketball player at this point. It would be shocking if the last game or game and a half, if people really liked the way he played, all of a sudden became who he was in the last 10 games of the season.
So you think it's somewhere around the 11, 12-minute mark?
Honestly, if I had my druthers, it's 8. If I could limit Mia to 8 minutes a game, I'd be thrilled. Now, Andrew Morgan would be about 24 as my top, because that's about the top he's been in his career. If I've got a healthy Burke, then it's probably 20 of Morgan, 20 of Burke, and Mia is a really good teammate on the bench.
So we know Nebraska lost by 17.
Mm-hmm. It was worse than that, but
trailed from wire to wire.
Yep.
Is that a good example? It would last night, with the total being where it was, be a good example to use plus minus, or is plus minus less accurate in a game last night?
Ooh,
I'm not setting you up. I'm just
no. So in general, I think plus minus is going to be difficult in a game last night because everybody got their ass kicked.
Okay.
So you're not going to see the differentiation between like, oh, these were really good minutes from this guy and this guy struggled a little bit. Like from the jump, Nebraska got their head beat in. And so most of those, I haven't looked at the plus minus numbers.
okay.
Just full disclosure.
So I'm going to ask you something.
My guess would be most of those numbers are going to be pretty ugly.
You lost by 17. You trailed wire to wire.
Yeah. And we're down by 20 plus most of the game.
1, none, 2, 5.
Mm-hmm.
How many guys do you think were in the plus for Nebraska?
So they were plus in the second half as a team. Morgan's minutes mostly came in the second half. If I had to guess, also Bryce Williams had foul trouble in the first. I would guess Bryce and Morgan were plus.
4, 6, 8.
I like your rationale. Bryce was nowhere near being in the plus.
Okay.
He's minus 10.
Okay, not great.
Drew down, my man Andrew Morgan, plus 4.
Is he the only one?
The only
Yeah.
one.
I was almost going to say Morgan, but then I remembered Bryce.
The only one.
Yeah.
Now, you have to help me.
Okay.
In a game like that, where you're not really getting stops
at all,
he was kind of vilified a couple of games ago for being a stump defensively in the post, not giving you any pain. We talked about this. I'm not making this up.
No.
That's why, and I say all that to say, staying in the moment as a coach playing matchups is critical because you seldom can bottom line it.
Yeah.
Because that really makes no sense.
Sure.
It really makes no sense. One of your guys that has struggled a little bit on the defensive end, and I defended him, and I'm sure because you're an idiot sometimes, but oh, man, he just likes Andrew Morgan, so he doesn't want to say like that looked like a guy that was coached not to foul, and maybe he's not that bad because we went through this whole thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? I'm like, how do we know that was a guy that just told himself, hey, I can't get in foul trouble. My man TG finally had my back for once. Shout out T-Grad.
That's when I brought up Morgan's minutes, though, that he'd never played.
Yeah, but you talked about
career.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So if you got to play Michigan, a team that is really, really bad, tops in the top 3 and turning the ball over in the Big Ten. 3 games ago, they turned over 14-7 a night. Right? Roddy Gale is now coming off the bench. Well, who knows what they'll do with Gale Jr. By the way, that guy was almost a Blue Jay, so I want you to enjoy that. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
No? Careful what you ask for.
Careful what you wish for.
Although he may be different under different circumstances, but May's a good coach.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
What lineup are you rolling out against Michigan with Wolf and Golden? And they have a propensity to turn it over, and they initiate offense through Wolf.
So I don't – this sounds very defeatist. I don't know how much it matters.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
No, listen. Because
I'm done.
If you're dealing with
stay in the moment, man. You're trying to win.
No, I get that. But if you're, let's say you start either you're starting Mia or Morgan on Wolf, right? You feel good about either of those guys guarding him?
No, because I don't know about ball screens. But maybe this is like I don't know if this is too techie for radio, but if I'm playing against Golden, you may have to drop some more.
Sure.
On ball screens.
No, I get that. But my question is,
you know what I mean?
If you're dealing with,
and I know they're a no middle team.
If you're dealing with Mia and Morgan against a guy that's pretty dynamic in Wolf, and you go, okay, both these guys have a trouble defending without fouling, like you're going to end up with the other one anyway.
All right, so let's say you get away from schematics.
Okay.
Like game plan, which they're not going to do, but let's say you're being a punk. We're losing anyway.
I'm not saying you're losing anyway. I'm saying
how much do you think of it is about? How much of it is effort?
Because
sometimes they look disinterested.
Yeah, I would say more on the perimeter, though. I don't know that I think I've seen an effort issue with Mia or Morgan. I just don't know how good they are.
We're going to get back to what Caravan said 2 games ago against UConn, or for UConn.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage and brought to you by our friends over at Centris Federal Credit Union. Make sure you check out centrisfcu.org. Regardless of what you're looking for from a financial institution, there's a pretty good chance Centris has you covered. Whether it's checking and savings, you need an auto loan like we talked about yesterday. Maybe you're looking for your first home, a new home, maybe just looking to refinance. Make sure you get to centrisfcu.org to talk to their experts. They can help you guide through whatever financial situation you find yourself in. Federally insured by NCUA. DB, we got an interesting tweet over the break.
Man, are you reading the stream? Too?
No,
it's in the stream too.
So Sean said, "I would."
This exact sentiment.
Yeah,
it was just typed in the stream within 2 minutes.
I've heard this about 3 times, and it's all been in the last week, maybe 2.
I just told Sean 3. Did you? I just told Sean 3 times in the last 3 minutes.
So Sean says, "I wouldn't say they're disinterested." Talking about Nebraska basketball,
he's
pretty dialed in.
Yeah, he's a hoops head.
As much as they just don't like each other, the amount of disgust Gary shows towards some guys that aren't where they're supposed to be is easily in the double digits.
Okay, I'm gonna say this out loud and I'm gonna move on.
Okay,
because now they've got me thinking. I said this to you off air I think either over the weekend or here. Just talking. Who's the guy that I told you they seem like when they talk to him, they seem annoyed? Because he didn't receive the instruction well.
Oh,
and I said, you remember? And Bryce just kept it moving, didn't give the negative body language back. Who was he talking to?
Oh my gosh, I remember this conversation, and I'm blanking on it.
It was Mia.
Yep. So I was also
they didn't play the ball screen right.
Yep.
And he allowed him to turn the corner. And Bryce was. I'm just watching. I can't read lips. I'm watching Bryce share the information,
like body language,
and Mia just was not having it. So I said, one of the cool things I like about Bryce is he didn't. What I tell you, he didn't get in the weeds with it.
He just kept it pushing.
He just kept it pushing.
Yeah. So
I wonder.
Yeah.
What happens? And I'm not that's what I want to say. I'm not blaming this on Mia.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody listening, you just keep this in context.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you have guys stretched out of their comfort zone,
mm-hmm.
the more the real traits of whomever reveal themselves.
I also think
the more I stretch you, the more I'm going to learn about you.
Yes.
So now they have me thinking, like, what are they seeing where this has kind of become a thing? Because you don't have comebacks,
mm-hmm.
and you don't hang in there, and you don't bounce back from 6-game losing streaks if you don't like playing with one another. So what's the difference?
So, I mean, the difference would be, like you said, guys getting extended into places they probably shouldn't be in. You can maybe you like playing with Bear K and Andrew Morgan and Bryce and Juwan, and you like playing with kind of the core group of rotation that was. And Mia was, let's not forget, sort of on the outside left looking in for a while there. Didn't play any minutes in a few games. And then maybe that group likes playing together a lot more. And I do want to say, there is a difference. A lot of times these things overlap, but there is a difference between liking a person and liking playing with someone. Because I think I want to make that distinction, because they may like Braxton as a person just fine. They may
now the coach in me is coming. There's, I hate to say this, but I'm just keeping it a buck. Like there's players, and you hear me on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I get called to do sometimes during the day. Like I genuinely love kids, right? I'll run to the school at any time. But there are just some I don't like.
Sure.
Like there are some kids that I think, you'd probably be better off someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you're here, or since you are here, I'm going to compete.
We're going to do our best here.
And dial in. But I don't enjoy being around you or coaching you. So,
are there any kids you've liked as people that you didn't like coaching? Because there have been for me. There have been guys that I've liked, genuinely liked as people, couldn't stand coaching them.
Probably yes. I can think of a couple, but I can think of a couple, but I think over time enjoyed. I can only really think of two that I didn't like
coaching,
and that I didn't like as
people.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring that up is
I thought they were counterproductive to everything we were trying to do.
I think the reason I bring that up is I don't know what the relationship is, like what the team dynamics are, right? I don't really have a good grasp on that. But I do think it's possible that you can like a guy, and that allows you to, when he's not playing much or playing limited minutes or playing his role like Mia was, that you can have those big comebacks and you can bounce back from a 6-game losing streak, because the chemistry in the locker room isn't really bad. It's just, hey, we don't love playing with this guy. We like him as a person, but we don't have to play with him that much, so it's okay.
Were you surprised by Ulyss's early minutes?
For as bad as Worcester was playing, not really.
Okay, so
because I don't know what else you do there.
Do you?
Because Sam wasn't playing very good either.
Do you think? And Sam's going to get a ton of grace just because he's hung in there. Do you think guys get frustrated watching guys do things that they haven't earned the right to do?
That they know they shouldn't be doing? I 100% think that.
Yeah, we got to come back to that, because if that's the case, then maybe some of these guys that are saying this have a point.
And that's
because there are some guys that are getting out of pocket over time.
And that's sort of what I mean by you might like a guy, you may not like playing with a guy. That's DB. I'm Robbie Lou. We got Brian Edwards coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Live. Welcome back. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our guy Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider from Major Wager. What's up, B?
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
Oh, there we go. You had me nervous for a second. How we do? I like the little toque. I like the little toque you're wearing, man. Are you cold? What's the temp there?
It's in the 30s this morning.
Oh Lord! You know what I woke up to? Kid you not, -10, buddy. -10.
Get out of here.
Listen,
Are you serious?
I'm a guy that's notorious for liking a lot of things to drink, whether it's like bubbly or water or whatever, and I keep some of the extra in my garage. It's almost all frozen. I'm worried. I'm worried I'm going to come home to like things bursting. It's going to look like a bad Picasso paint job in my garage, man. It is. It -10, B, and you got a hat on, and it's 30. That's going to be a heat wave.
Is it snowing?
So we finally got some snow last week. We probably
Monday it snowed a lot.
We probably landed at about 6 inches total.
Yeah,
over the little intermittent snows.
Yeah, probably.
So it hasn't been crazy. I mean, they've gotten more in Dallas. So,
Right.
you know, I'm glad you're warming with us, man.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. So how about this UFC news, man? So they're really going to let Topuria give up he's given up the featherweight belt, and he's going to go fight Islam. And I'm seeing Bet Online has got Islam -280 and Topuria +220. And did you see? I don't know if it's news this morning or if it broke last night. And Lopez is going to fight
last night
in Miami. Okay, last night's when that happened. All right.
Yep. So listen,
yes.
What makes Topuria think? And I get it. It's different in the UFC because a money grab could mean you get hurt pretty bad. What do you think Topuria is thinking?
I just think he's just oozing confidence. You know, when Islam defended the belt last time, Topuria like went on Twitter and was talking trash to him.
Yep.
And I was like, this guy he's undefeated. And did he defend the featherweight belt at all?
Well, I think he got the one, right? I'm trying to figure out. So go ahead.
I'm listening. No, I'm looking it up. I'm trying to remember if he.
I'm trying to figure out what his plan of attack would be with versus Islam, who's so multifaceted.
Right. I guess he's gonna stop the takedown and thinks he'll beat him on the feet. Is my guess. I mean, and I agree with that, but I don't know that he can stop the takedowns.
I just don't know how he's going to keep him off of him.
Right. Exactly. And it's not like Topuria is that big. He's not that big.
But he is. So one thing I do think, and it's hard by watching. I just go by, because I'm a wrestling guy, so I just go by how they can control guys. I do think he's exceptionally strong for his size.
Topuria? Oh, absolutely. So okay, yeah, he did defend against Max. He won it against Volkanovski.
I thought he had the one.
Yeah, and you know what? Those are the two big time guys at featherweight. So I guess that makes me understand it better. I guess he's just like, all right, on to the next.
Yeah, just like our guy Bud Crawford going to fight Canelo.
Yeah, I need to see some ink though. That one's kind of this is taking a little too long. I need to see some signatures. Give me some Terrence John Hancocks, right? I need to see a Canelo Herbie Hancock. Like, come on now, because Canelo's going to take the fight in between, and Bud's still trying to decide, does he want to tune up? Like, how does he want to walk around? Like, there's some strategy to this. I'd like to see some ink, man.
B, as we kind of transition here over to basketball, you've got a couple NBA plays that I'm interested in. Got Atlanta and Orlando tonight. What about the Hawks makes you interested in them?
Because he knows them like the back of his hand.
There it is. So the Hawks have covered 7 in a row. Their last 9 as an underdog, 8-1 against the spread. And Orlando is just been awful lately. They're 4-11 straight up, 3-12 ATS, and in its last 15 games. Going back further, Magic 8-17 straight up, 7-18 against the spread. in their last 25. Their last 14 as favorites. They're 4-10 against the spread. 2 games before the All-Star break, Atlanta won 112-106 down in Orlando, and they're at home tonight as underdogs. I will take the Hawks.
I see you taking advantage of a team that I don't know what the Lakers' problem is. I'm a huge fan, and after Doncic's 6th turnover, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's LeBron's All-Star scandal. Whatever, man. It's Hollywood, right? So I'm used to the theatrics.
Sure.
3 looks disgusting. They lost to the Hornets. Is that really? Do I need to wipe my eyes? Lakers 3 at Portland.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I looked at the box score this morning because I didn't watch. I was out watching games last night, and I didn't watch SportsCenter when I got home, and I saw the box score and saw y'all lost to Charlotte. I couldn't believe that. So Portland has won 6 in a row at home and 7 of their last 8, and they've covered 8 in a row at home. However, they've got 3 guys questionable: Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, and Scoot Henderson. If Henderson's upgraded, I'm going to back Portland +3. If Grant and Williams are upgraded and Henderson isn't, I'm probably going to be on Portland unless all 3 of these guys are out. I haven't played it yet. Because DeAndre Ayton's already out. If all 3 of these guys are out, I probably won't do it. But if 1 or 2 of them are in, and I lean Portland +3, regardless, they've been great at home lately.
I admire your resiliency to try to cap the NBA because I think it's easily one of the most difficult sports to cap. It's the only sport where you can get the Hornets that beat the Lakers as a whatever they were 14-point dog, and yet you'll see like 30-point victories. It's a crazy league to try to cap.
Yeah, you just you never know what night is just going to be the no-show night because all of them have it.
B, let's move on to college here. I know we've got some lines coming up some games coming up this weekend that we don't have lines on quite yet. But one of the interesting ones for me is Mizzou at Arkansas. Where's a number where you would like that game at?
So I made it 3.5, but every time I make my SEC lines, my line is more so tilted to Mizzou because I'm just so high on them in general. So I made it 3.5, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be closer to Pick'em, maybe Missouri -1. And Arkansas is playing really good right now. Obviously, they gave Auburn fits last night, but I just love this Missouri team. If they're going to be -2 or fewer at Arkansas on Saturday, I'll be on Mizzou. Caleb Grill was spectacular again last night. And when he's hitting threes,
fun to watch.
Yeah,
I like Bama.
Defense optional. Defense was optional.
So that's going to be. I'm telling you, that's going to be their downfall. They refuse to guard, and I think Sears is a sieve. He won't stop dribble penetration. He just wants to shoot that thing. I'm not going to say Bama is a fraud. I'm just saying any team that plays with some pace and will get downhill will give those teams will give Bama fits.
Yep, I concur. And I don't know who's going to beat my Gators, gentlemen. We are absolutely rolling.
So now they're listen. All right, I gotta say this.
Get it out.
I'm gonna concede that they're your Gators because I've known you forever, and you are through and through Gator bait. But there's this little guy in Omaha that has been on Florida for about 6-7 weeks as take a flyer on them to win the national. Back when I was saying this, you could have gotten Florida at like plus 1,900.
I got them 35-1 in December.
Well, you're a homer. That doesn't have to be. I'm just saying we're like kindred spirits, man. We both like Florida is sensational.
Yeah, I mean, we are, and I think these injuries have been a blessing in disguise because it's gotten Urban Klofsar playing time. He had basically not gotten any playing time in SEC play. Elijah Martin got hurt. Clayton got hurt. He played good against Vandy, went 3 of 3 against Auburn, and then Condon and Alexis getting hurt. Micah Hanlockton takes the red shirt off. So, and all these guys, now Condon's going to be back in a week or two, and so is Alexis. We'll be back full strength. And now these other guys, Hey, I say we, but I know I'm 0 for life against
listen,
Damon.
I know. Listen, we're going back to like Billy. I know who you ride with. Like you're not this isn't a Johnny come lately thing. I'm gonna give the devil due.
Listen, I just want to hear that we energy in the fall when it's Billy Napier time. All right.
Right. And so now, Ravi, I don't know if you know this. So when Nebraska, the Tommy Fraser still running game, back in '95, when Damon and Nebraska, I was at that game. And I stayed to the bitter end, and I'm 0 for life against Damon. There's been no rematch.
Well, at least they were kind enough to kneel down at the goal line at the end to make sure didn't get to 69
I don't
or 70.
know, man. I want to get that book. Hey, so B, let me. B, so could we still be boys if I could like send some memos and some memes to Chapel Hill for Carolina to hire Golden?
Oh yeah. I don't know that he'd leave. Are they gonna fire Hubert?
I hope so.
Yeah, they better.
Right.
I mean, they did show a pulse against the lowly Wolfpack, but I'm not gonna apologize for a win because North Carolina State's been a thorn in their side. So I mean,
is Keats gonna get fired a year after going to the Final Four?
So he reminds me of Tang at K-State. He gets enough good wins
to stay alive,
to keep you kind of okay,
tantalized.
He was going to get fired last year.
Oh, I know.
They went on that run.
I know. It's
wow.
I don't know, man. I think that state is in need of an overhaul.
Don't tell that to John Shire.
Oh.
Hey, speaking of hot seat coaches, fade Notre Dame. I mean, my goodness,
you're over the Shrewsbury pressers. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah, I had SMU big last night, even without the leading scorer.
Maybe he wants to go back.
Every presser is an emotional plea that he knows what he's doing.
Oh, did he have one again last night? I didn't see last night's.
No, it was minimal.
2 nights ago.
There's nothing he can say. He took it on the chin.
Okay.
Maybe he can go back and fix Penn State. We appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, B.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio, more Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, kicking off hour number 3, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Michael Bruntz of Husker247. What's up, Bruntz?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Ravi got off to a slow start. Just doing Ravi things, saying a bunch of inappropriate things.
What'd I do? You're the one talking about grills for a half hour.
And, it was probably like 9 minutes total. Outside of that, Bruntz,
Wait, whoa. Grills or grill? Like
no,
what
not
what
like
kind of grill
not
are we
like
talking
fronts.
about?
Not like, let me see your wood. No, like.
Okay.
Listen, I love when he picks and chooses when he wants to embrace our culture, because normally he's making fun of me, Bruntz, but when it's cool, he shows a little crossover, man. I need you to get your friend. Get your guy, Ravi. So Bruntz, let me ask you something. So I haven't gotten to this, but I'm going to weave you into it because I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm trying to get good at this thing called Hurrdat Sports Live. Caravan said a couple of days ago, "Hey, listen, this is on us. We don't play very hard. We don't embrace the game the way that we should. This is not on Hurley. This is on us. This is on us." Ooh, Caravan said, "What? Hurley, a Hurley coach team? If it can happen to Hurley, it certainly can happen to Nebraska, right?"
Of not showing up?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it can. It can happen.
Does Nebraska need a spokesperson like that to explain some of these starts?
Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful. I don't know. I don't know if. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, I think.
If Hurley can win 2 national championships, and be the poster child for his teams playing hard in that offense, and look how hard they do everything,
and the self-proclaimed best coach in the country, don't forget,
and a player of Caravan's, well, not the last since missing free throws Villanova Caravan, the other Caravan can say that about his team. Certainly, Coach Hoiberg can have a little grace that and get away from, well, if you're not coaching it, you're allowing it, when we want to kind of reprimand his coaching prowess?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, I think it would be helpful to hear from players on it. I think,
Mike Bruntz for not being a fan of DB's narrative this morning. It's okay, Bruntz. You can give me some pushback.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what your narrative is.
Well, it's kind of like sometimes it's on the players and not the coach, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad coaching if it's allowed to happen.
Right. Well, and I think that there's at some point you reach a limit of like what you can do as a coach, right? I would have to imagine, and this is just my one man's opinion, I would imagine that Fred Hoiberg is not coaching guys to dribble straight into traffic and immediately turn the ball over. That's just a guess. I don't know. I think at some point your players just need to do it. Like that's where Nebraska is at. And when Bryce is able to do, take over games and things like that, I mean, that's the players doing it. I mean, I guess I don't know at this point, if you're Fred Hoiberg, like what buttons are there left to push? I mean, you smash your hand through a whiteboard and everybody's kind of making jokes about it. But I mean, in my head, it's like, okay, you had to do that at Northwestern. You come out in a just absolute graveyard of an arena in central Pennsylvania.
What was the announced attendance?
I don't even know. Like, did they have one?
Yeah, that was something else.
But I mean, at some point, you kind of are out of buttons to push, and players just need to either do it or they don't. And I mean, it would be helpful to kind of hear some soul searching on that. I don't know if it's just with the way college basketball is now and the way the team is kind of a constant rotating cast of characters. I mean, who's the person that kind of steps up and takes ownership for that? I mean, you would think it's probably Juwan or Bryce, but I don't. There's just not. I don't know. It just feels like you're at the point now where you know what's in front of you. You got 4 regular season games left. You probably got to win at least 2 of those, and that's the math. Like, just go do it. I mean, I think they're kind of past the point of really kind of getting in and you just got to go out and win. That's just where they're at.
Bruntz, is there a way in your mind for Nebraska to get where they need to go in these last 4 games without having some sort of, whether it's public or not, sort of come to Jesus moment led by a player? Is this where we're at? Yeah, I mean, it's where I'm at. Like, if they keep coming out the way they did against Northwestern and Penn State, like, good luck.
Good luck.
Well, I mean, if you play a first half like they've played the last 2 games, I mean, you could get beat pretty bad at home by Minnesota. I mean, that's
right.
That's still out there.
You could get your head beat in by Iowa and Michigan, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, those are. I mean, hell, every team in the Big Ten can beat you if you play like. There's probably a lot of teams not even in the Big Ten that could beat you if you play like Nebraska's played the last 2 games in the first half. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's. I don't know if it has to be a public thing, but something has to change because it's. Yeah, I mean, Burke not being in there, that's hurt them, but. I mean, the types of mistakes that they're making and the things that are not happening are not, just magically solved by getting him back on the floor. I think it'll help, but it's effort. It's, the types of things that you would hope you're not having to be concerned about when you're, 4 games left in your conference season, playing on the bubble and trying to make the tournament. I mean, it's. You should be kind of focusing on the finer things and matchups and not like, how are we not going to turn the ball over? How are we going to look like a functional basketball team? Stuff like that.
Yeah, and let's not, I mean, I know that Berke is a big loss, but, like, let's not pretend like it's Ryan Kalkbrenner. He was averaging 7 points and 6 rebounds. Like, his loss shouldn't make them look like this, right?
Well, that's what I said. I mean, having him in there helps. I mean, it's another big body. I think he's probably a bigger piece of their defense than what he gets credit for. But
Sure.
I mean, the number of offensive rebounds they're giving up right now, I mean, he's not going to, magically change that. I mean, that's just effort. It's going to the glass and beating the guy that you're trying to box out. And, the turnover issues have been, pretty awful. So I think, that helps the picture a little bit, but there's some bigger things going on there that need to be addressed. And it's not just like, it's not X's and O's type stuff. It's all like between the ears type stuff, I think.
So, okay. So, and I get it. Like there's some guys that, make a living reading box scores and pumping out TikToks. But if we're going to be one step above that, Bruntz, how do you rationalize, or what do you make of, you shoot 28 of 54, you're 33% from three, your assists to buckets, you had 21 assists.
On 28 makes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're playing that way, would you start defensively to not give up 89? Or I get it, 16 turnovers is the easy one, but relative to who Nebraska is, where do you start if you're going to make sense of the box score versus what you actually saw?
I don't know. It seems like Nebraska's one of those. Maybe more teams are like this, but especially with Nebraska, like when they're playing good defense, like it just kind of it just looks like a different group. The energy's up. They look a lot more dialed in and interested. You get some tempo and runouts and things like that on the offensive end out of it. And it just, the last two games, they were active in the second half against Northwestern. I mean, I think that was part of the reason why they were able to come back, was that the defense was a lot better. They rebounded and just, got some stops. And it's felt like that's been, recently at least, something that they've struggled with to being able to do consistently, is just how do you string together stops? So I'd probably go there first. I mean, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Penn State shooting 8 of 23 from three and only getting to the foul line 14 times should have yielded 89 points. You just couldn't keep. I'm with you. You couldn't keep people out of the paint.
No, and I think it's probably one of those things too, where teams kind of start to see it a little bit and can take advantage of it.
The opponent.
Michigan scares me a little bit for that reason too. I mean, they probably took notice of Nebraska's inability to keep guys out of the paint. So, yeah, I mean, it just the last two games, the first half, it just looks like those guys have been so disinterested in being there, and you just can't play. You can't play good defense. You can't rebound. I mean, it's just it's not a way to approach a game like that.
We're talking Michael Bruntz, Husker247. Bruntz, if I have to put you on the spot here, scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence level with 4 games left that Nebraska is an NCAA tournament team?
Not high. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's easy to kind of become a prisoner of the moment. I mean, what do you got left? You got Iowa at home to finish it. You've got Minnesota at home that, I do think those are both games that Nebraska can get if they just show up and play, decent basketball. So I don't know. I mean, I think 2-2 is still very doable. So, I mean, as bad as last night was, there's still the chance there. I mean, I'm not, saying like book your NIT tickets now by any means, but they got to get things turned around quickly here, because you win those two, you're at least in the conversation a little bit more there. And I think that was kind of always the number anyways, right? Like you needed probably 2 out of that last group. Would have loved 3. Obviously you're going to be challenged to get that, but I still lean that, they're going to be sweating a decision on when tournament time comes around. So I don't know. There's just something's off behind the scenes that like feels like you're going to have to kind of hash some things out as a group or in order to get that done.
So Bruntz, you mentioned something that feels like off behind the scenes. We've had several people this morning and over the last couple of days say it doesn't seem like this team maybe gets along that well or doesn't like playing together that much. Like, is that a sense you've gotten? It's because it's like we've heard it from multiple people just really over the course of the last few days, and it's kind of came out of nowhere. It seemed like is that a sense you get at all?
I don't know.
I didn't until this morning, and now I feel like I'm overthinking it because everybody, it's a lot of places now.
I think when you kind of compare it to last year's team, it's just a different group. I wouldn't say it doesn't feel like a team that, that there's not the same joy as last year's group, but it just feels like this year's team, it's just a little bit, they make things a little bit harder or things feel a little bit harder than what they were last year. And I don't know. I mean, I think when you're having to bring in so many different players and kind of trying to make all that work, I think you're going to run into that a little bit. I mean, you're going to have that change, and I think they are a different group than last year. So I don't know if they don't like playing with each other. I mean, certainly when you're playing the type of basketball they have the last two games, it makes it a little less fun to play with each other. But I don't know. I mean, it's felt like at times, like I said, that things just feel a little bit harder for this group, and it feels like some of the things that Fred's kind of having to talk about with effort and competitiveness and things like that. You didn't hear that as much last year, and I do wonder if you kind of miss a guy like Alec a little bit on the roster, a guy that kind of was he's kind of the pace setter, I think, for that group last year, whether he got credit for it or not. And I don't know that they have somebody on the roster this year that's kind of that same guy that, like, when things just look bad and you need a play or a guy to do something to kind of charge everybody up. I just don't know that they have that person right now.
Michael, let me transition to baseball. And can you separate with this team GCU from Vandy when you watch what play? Because I think you and I both thought Irvine was going to be, really, really tough from the jump, and it was probably better than the non-top 25 ranking. Like, when you're watching this team, you knew it was going to be pretty fluid, and we shouldn't make any sweeping judgments. Where have you kind of landed on what you think you're going to see this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, it's I can separate it. I mean, I think opening weekend, Irvine, like you said, I mean, that's a good team.
Yeah, it is.
They're going to be a tournament team. They got some guys that can pitch. I think they hit better than what I was expecting. But Vanderbilt, Nebraska, I think you saw the type of competitive group that they can be. You saw the bullpen depth in that game that I think Nebraska has, and I think you saw that over the whole weekend. And you get to Monday against Grand Canyon, and I think maybe the feeling leaving the weekend, you felt like you got some work done because you got that win against Vanderbilt that's going to help you and be with you throughout the year, which is really kind of what you wanted out of that opening weekend. But you also felt like 3-1 was right there, and the lineup just wasn't able to find a big hit early in that game. So I think for the most part, you have to feel pretty good about the way that those four games played out. You've got some veteran guys that have hit, in their careers that I think are going to be able to get things going. And, this weekend it's going to be tough. I mean, this is Louisiana team that's picked third in the Sun Belt.
Oh yeah.
They've got an elite arm on Friday night, another, hard throwing left-hander, kind of not similar, but a little bit kind of what Nebraska saw against Vanderbilt. And a team that, when you go to Louisiana and you're trying to play 3 games down there, like, you better make sure you beat them, because that's a tough place to play. They always have really good hitters down there. That's like a hallmark of a Matt Deggs team, and it's another opportunity for Nebraska to get a really nice series win that when you get to May is going to be really important for you. So I think overall was pretty encouraged by what I saw out of Nebraska down in Arizona, even if that Monday game just kind of ended with a little bit of a thud.
Bruntz, as you look at, you mentioned the series down in Lafayette, then you've got next week, you got the Frisco Baseball Classic with some other quality clubs there. Out of those next 6 games, Louisiana, Sam Houston, LSU, and then K-State, like, ideal but realistic scenario, what are you hoping Nebraska accomplishes there in order to feel good about this sort of first stretch of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go on the road this week and you win a series at Louisiana, I think you have to feel pretty darn good about that. I mean, you go back to last year, this series feels a little bit like that trip that they made to Charleston, where this is a better team that they're going to be facing this weekend. But, true road series, it's kind of a test of how do you deal with the travel and a really good opponent early in the year, that, a team that's been outside since the season started. And, against, the following weekend, I mean, that LSU game is obviously the big one that's circled, and it's another opportunity for Nebraska to get one of those, big kind of season-changing type wins. And I think the one thing that you can say about this group, I mean, with everything that was kind of going on around the program on Saturday with Greg Sharp's passing, I mean, I know that was very strongly felt by the baseball program. That they kind of had that going on. I mean, you're playing a nationally ranked team on national TV. I mean, they showed up and they were competitive, and they were competitive after not playing particularly well the previous day. So I think that's the challenge for Nebraska is, making sure that you're able to continue to get to that level of competitiveness. And they're going to have to, because this is a really tough stretch of 6 games they've got coming up. And, with the way the Big Ten schedule is now, you basically come right home and you start conference play, which is kind of wild that, for the second week of March, you're going to be having conference games in Lincoln.
Bruntz, we've talked about the options, right, that Coach Bolt has and the buttons that he can push, but you had to buoy that against not panicking, right, where it's tough schedule in the non-con and some things have to play out. Are there positions you feel like in your head, having seen so much fall ball, that answers will come sooner rather than later because of body of work?
Yeah, I think, in terms of just battles or position areas that they're still trying to figure guys out. I mean, you gotta find at bat somehow for Robbie Bolin and in that outfield. You got to find at bats for Rhett Stokes. I mean, I think Nebraska's lineup might look a little bit different this weekend in some different combinations than what they had the first weekend, just because they're trying to figure out their best 9 there. The kind of fascinating part is going to be on bullpen roles, things like that I think they're still sorting through, because we've talked about it, that Christo and Worthley are going to be big parts of this pitching staff. I think I don't know that either of those guys were at their best down in Arizona, but I mean, I think they're still going to be a piece of it. And, you only have 3 games now, kind of figuring out where guys fit. A lot of veteran guys in that bullpen. You didn't even see Casey Dice at all. In those 4 games. There's, 3 or 4 freshmen that didn't throw that I know Nebraska feels like they could throw if they needed to. So I think they're still kind of piecing that stuff together too, and figuring out where guys are best. But I do think that this is they've got choices, they've got options. It's just kind of a matter of figuring out, and this is a bit of a luxury, I think. Like if you're kind of being able to say like, okay, this is the type of role and situation where this guy is going to be able to function best, and actually being able to put him in that role rather than having to just shoehorn somebody in. That's a good place to be as a coach, I think. And I think they have the depth on that pitching staff to be able to do that this year.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker247. Bruntz, appreciate the time as always, and hope we get to watch some good baseball and basketball this weekend.
Later in the clubhouse on a Thursday, Bruntz, but Schaef's coming up next, so hang on.
Ooh.
Hang on.
All right. I'm in the opening act. See you guys.
That's Michael Bruntz, Husker247. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Live here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and it is time for Bet on It. DB.
Yes, indeed.
There's a story going around about the Toronto Blue Jays failing to reach an agreement with one Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the numbers, Vladdy Jr., very productive baseball player. And then you look at some photos of him at spring training, and I go, I don't know that I want to pay that guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Listen.
There's lots of good food in Toronto, though.
There's lots of good food, a lot of places.
This place has since closed, I think. But
yeah.
There used to be this place called Marchés.
Mm-hmm.
I used to call it Marchies, and it would make the French Canadians pretty pissed.
Sure.
And it was basically like grocery shopping in different ethnic groups, but it was like a walk-in buffet.
Okay.
But they would cook it like right there, so you could go shop at Little Italy. You could go to Guyana. You could go to America.
Okay.
And it was sensational. And I was like, if I lived here and I didn't have to pay the 33% GST, I'd be fat.
Yeah?
I'd be fat.
So
there were so many good places. I mean, they have Tim Hortons. Have you ever had a Timbit?
No.
I mean, Timbits are fan. I'm sure Vlad looks like a guy that could partake in a few Timbits.
You're betting on that?
I'm a bet on that. So there's just opportunities to get in trouble. It's like if I lived in New Orleans.
Sure.
I would be obese.
You have some issues.
Yes, I'd be obese.
You big beignets guy?
No, it wouldn't be sweets. That's where you'd start.
No, I like beignets a lot.
This po' boy would be eating po' boys. You know what I mean? No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
But somebody's going to pay him.
Somebody will.
And I don't, I'm not here for like body shaming or anything, but when you're looking at paying a 25-year-old guy who can't stay in shape,
yep.
I mean, what would be the going rate for a guy that averages 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, and a 800 to 900 OPS every year?
Well, that's funny because he does play the corner, and I don't know if you love the home run production, but we did talk about like numbers in baseball have kind of changed,
sure,
and fluctuated.
Yeah,
where we were talking about making changes in sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to reset. I don't want to act like it was my analogy, but I thought the steroid era and then the home run thing and then looking at it now was a fantastic example.
Yeah, so I mean, through most of baseball history, 30 to 40 home runs was a great year. And then you had sort of this 15 to 20 year span where 40 home runs was kind of just like, oh, that's okay.
20 may be long, but yeah.
Yeah, 15. I call it 15, right? Like early 90s to early 2000s, late 80s to early 2000s, somewhere in there, you have this stretch where it's like, yeah, if you were getting 50 a year, then you weren't an elite power hitter. And obviously you had that mini stretch where 60 a year and then a couple 70s in there as well. And so after the steroid era kind of got cleaned up a little bit, you had to readjust your eye to say, oh, if you get to 40, that's a great year. Anybody that gets to 50, that's an historic year. And then you've got, your outlier Aaron Judge year as well in there. And so it's really hard to look at because I'm used to growing up as a late 90s, early 2000s baseball fan. I go like, okay, like, yeah, he had the 1 year with 48, but 32, 26, 30. in the next 3 years as a power hitter at a corner position, I kind of go like, I'd like to see a little bit more than that. I'd like to be in the mid to high 30s if I'm going to pay this guy $30-40 million a year to go be my corner infielder for the next 10-12 years, because that's probably what we're talking about, is a 10 to 12 year contract somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 to $400 million. Like, I would imagine that's what he's looking for. And at that body type, I probably don't.
Are you pitting against the productivity, or are you trying to
both? Yeah.
Okay.
Like, listen, the more productive he is, the more I can overlook the body type. Right? Like, if he goes 48, 42, 36,
he's
40.
like the anti-Myles Garrett, right? You look at his you look at how
he's built, and
he appears to be committed. You're like, yeah, I'll pay that guy
100%. You look at a guy that looks to be, but I mean, there's something about being a professional athlete. I get baseball's different, but there's something about being a professional athlete. It's the reason I hated Pablo Sandoval.
Right.
When he got signed with the Red Sox. I was like, what are you paying that guy for?
Yeah.
He obviously doesn't have a ton of interest in being committed professionally. Right? And I get being in shape looks different for different people, but there's nobody in their right mind that can look at Vladdy Jr. and be like, oh, that guy's got himself in great shape. I think it's part of the problem you have with Luka, where you're like, hey, that guy.
6 turnover Luka?
Six turnover Luka.
5 of 18 Luka? I mean, not that I was paying attention.
I think you have as many problems with the 6 apple and cherry turnovers as he has the ones he has in the games, though, right? Like, if that guy's in great shape and has committed himself to being in great shape, you feel dramatically better about that trade, don't you?
100%.
See? It's like it's the issue I had with James Harden. James Harden never looked like he was in very good shape.
Although apparently Frumpy James Harden is a good basketball player because he's playing well.
He is playing well, but it was one of the issues I had with him. Like, I don't want to pay a guy if I don't feel like, and at 25 years old, if you're already struggling with these things, it's not like metabolism famously does not get better as you age.
So his home run total last year was only in the 30s?
It was 30 even. He was at 26 the year before. And
what did he play, 140?
He played 159. He played the whole damn year.
Okay, so I don't know whether that's hard for me to do something with, because, in one instance, I'm like, he doesn't miss time.
Yeah.
Because I'd have pegged him for like a 148 guy.
Sure.
He doesn't miss time. So.
But on the other hand, the power numbers become less impressive.
Yeah, but the productivity from leaving the yard was a little different. What I think I would pay.
You think you'd pay him?
I think I would.
Because the opportunity cost of losing him is worse than the chance that his body doesn't hold up?
Yeah. Because he's not missing time.
And that's fair. I mean, he's been remarkably durable. So starting in 2020, which was his second full year, it was 60 games, which was the most in the league because of the COVID year. He went 60, he went 161, 160, 156, 159. Like, the dude plays. The dude plays every day.
Yeah, I just think baseball is weird right now.
But when he's 32, am I going to feel great about that contract?
I don't know, because expenditures and money, it's on the lips of everybody.
Yeah.
Because of Manfred's stance and what he said about the Dodgers. And then you had Atanasio, the Brewers owner, say what he said, and which was basically, hey, listen, we're built to compete at a certain point, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm Brewers fans, I'm probably kind of pissed.
Don't feel great about it.
But also, your commissioner didn't help you, because I think if his message is a little different, because he basically, my takeaway from that, and this is as a Dodgers fan, was, hey man, everybody can play the game. It's not that big of a deal. Versus, hey, listen, what we need to do is take a look at these cash expenditures and how to escrow money, because it's what's going to happen. It's what's happening in football.
Yeah.
Right? People will look. That's why when you went through the quarterbacks thing, I was talking about cash.
Yeah.
Like, people are probably like, man, DB, like, what's the difference? Well, it's a huge difference, because in the NFL, you got to spend. If you don't spend 89% of your cash flow within 3 years, you have to give away. You're part of the give back program.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So it's like
there's a salary floor.
Yeah.
There's
in baseball.
Yeah.
You want people to be spending their made money.
Yes.
So maybe he could have talked a little bit more about
and make no
the
mistake,
know-how or what being cash strapped versus cash flow really means in baseball. Like he was a little dismissive, which I didn't appreciate for the good of the game.
Yeah.
But I do understand what he's saying because it's the case that I was trying to make. Like,
there's nothing stopping these other teams.
You can spend some of your cash.
There's nothing stopping these other teams from doing this. And do you remember the exercise I went through the other day of, hey, this is how much revenue they brought in versus this is how much money they spent?
You can spend some of your cash.
Every single team in the league can afford the Dodgers roster.
And the thing about it is, and what you're figuring out in football, if you get inside the numbers of cash and having money in escrow. So, yeah, the Chiefs can defer Mahomes' salary.
They still have to put that money aside.
It has to show up in the escrow.
Yes.
Like, you have to have the cash
that was the big
readily available.
That was the big thing with the Raiders when they traded Khalil Mack because they signed – who else did they sign at the same time? Was it Crosby at the same time? They didn't have the escrow cash to pay both of them at the same time. And so – yeah, I just if I'm a baseball fan, I would love the commissioner to be like, hey, not only can you all spend money, I see your balances. Like, you all need to be spending money. Yeah. And honestly, that's the next thing for Major League Baseball is forcing those teams to spend money.
I probably would play Vlad. I have to look at the going rate for corner guys, though.
There's too many teams in Major League Baseball that run their franchises like private equity firms. They're more concerned about the bottom line than the product. And at the end of the day, that's not a great way to run a franchise.
100%.
Coming up next, we're going to talk to Mike Schaefer, Husker247, here on Hurrdat Sports Live. Wrapping up the show today with our friend Mike Schaefer, Husker247, joining us at a usual time today to accommodate his fatherhood. What's going on, Schaefer?
Hey, thanks for working with me. Got a great day with Hudson on Tuesday where it was just dad daycare and just played and played and played. And then he slept and I actually got a nap in. So that was kind of nice.
You know, I can appreciate your texting delivery when you said, I can't really guarantee that Hudson's going to just go play. And it's like, whether I'm Zooming or I have to do something, it's like, okay, what's the situation of my kid? Can I pull this off? Hey, hold on. Let's be right back. My kid's got his head in the flour.
It's hard because if you know that your kid is somewhere and you don't have to think about him, you can put all of your thoughts into whatever that it is that you're doing. But even if I'm trying to sit there and write something and Hudson is just playing nicely in front of me, it's really hard to do it. Like, it is hard to be split mindset of parenting and working at the same time. So shout out to those who are able to pull it off because I am not one of them. I barely have enough mental capacity to do my task in front of me, let alone try to keep a child alive.
And it's hard not to be paranoid, right? Like, you're just consumed like, oh my gosh, are they painting the walls? Wait.
Well, and then the other thing is he's at the age where he's fascinated by anything that you're doing. So if I'm sitting there on a computer, he's just going to want to come over and throw his entire hand on the keyboard. And I've watched him do this multiple times. So there was just no chance that it was happening on Tuesday.
Oh, you had to say it. Hudson, get to the batting cages. All right. Turn that thing on about 78. Work on the outer half. Hey, let me ask you something, Mike J, because again, as a lifelong fan, and this is all new to me, so I'm basically just fact finding because kind of what I'm hearing this morning and last night on social media was this looks like a basketball team that does not enjoy playing with one another. And before I jump to any conclusions, I'm just like, okay, let me kind of look at some of these examples. And at any point last night, did this look like a team that had been on the road since Northwestern? And is that what you thought was part of the catalyst for how they were playing?
I felt like they just showed up poorly. Yeah, I mean, they look like a team that's had two different road trips in the same 3-week span. Like they didn't look particularly good, and they faced a team in Penn State that wanted to prove something, that came out and was the aggressor right away. Nebraska backed down immediately, struggled to handle any of the pressure. You're down 14-2, and they had no way of getting into that game. It was so much went wrong in the first 4 minutes of that game that it was going to be really hard for them to build their way out of it. You lose Andrew Morgan almost within the first 2 minutes of the game on 2 fouls, and you have no low post presence offensively at that point. Your point guards and your guard play has struggled all year against pressure defense, and that's one thing that Penn State's going to do really well. And they took Nebraska out of the game right away. Like, I never looked at it as, oh, these guys don't want to play with each other. And I didn't think of it as so much Nebraska's played a lot of basketball. Maybe they're tired, but they went into a sleepy environment and they got punched in the mouth and they could not respond to it. And they were able to respond against Northwestern. And there was a brief moment in the second half where I thought down 16 with an open Sam Hoiberg 3-pointer, maybe he makes that. You're down 13 with 16 minutes left to go. You have an opportunity there to make a run. Instead, mystery, they make a 3. They make, I think it was just like an 8-0 run for them. You're back down 24. So that was kind of the end of the game. I don't want to make too much of it. I don't want to make excuses in the sense that, it's a team that you're expected to win, but it's also a road game in a conference where every game is a fight. Like, Nebraska is just not good enough that they're going to be able to go in somewhere, play a C- or a D+ game, and then come out with a win in the Big Ten. Like, that's just not who they are. They didn't play well enough to win. They didn't deserve to win, and Penn State took it right at them. I mean, to me, that was the game in a nutshell. Nebraska is the same team that I think can turn around and go win on Monday against Michigan, and it wouldn't shock me if they did so. Like, I don't want to make too much of that game last night.
Jafe, if I'm trying to drag you down into the pit of despair and panic, is the place I could do it not being able to stay in front of the ball at the point of attack? Like, everything else you mentioned, I can kind of be like, okay, the foul trouble with Mia and Morgan and Bryce, and they were a little loose with the ball, and Penn State's that's a place where I can get you. Like, the thing that I'm having a really hard time getting over is the fact that there was just a freeway to the basket all night, and I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because when they were losing the 6 games, it felt like that was an issue that they weren't able to rim protect. It's felt like that was an issue last year when it fell apart against Texas A&M. They had nobody that could step in front of the trains that were just rolling through the lane there. And so I think that's sort of what they are. I mean, if you don't have Burke, that 3-headed attack of your front court really kind of takes a hit. Like, Braxton Mia is not able to play enough minutes, and he's a solid defender. I don't think he's a great defender. Andrew Morgan can do a little, but he's more likely to just get himself into foul trouble than he is to really redirect shots. So, yeah, I mean, Penn State just went right at him in the paint, and they had a lot of success with it. That's an issue, but it's not like one that I think is an unknown or one that necessarily every team is going to be able to exploit. It just felt like with Penn State that ended up being their go-to over and over. And the other thing is, how many times did they end up with an and one situation in there? They finished at the hoop. I mean, Nebraska in their best games don't finish particularly well at the hoop. And so it just, I'm more willing to think of it as a perfect storm of stuck than I am to think of it as there's something that got exposed in that game. I don't know that there was anything I saw last night that we haven't seen snippets of this season. So again, I don't think this is a harbinger of issues for Nebraska over the final 4 regular season games and then in the tournament.
How interesting is it that in the very same conference, the next game out, you're going to play a team that's completely different stylistically than the one you just played? And I get it. Michigan has a propensity to turn the ball over, but they initiate their offense through the post. They're big. They're long. They get away with turning the ball over. How much of that do you think is the challenge when you hear the narrative that Nebraska plays up to or down to their level of competition sometimes in basketball, that when you get a team like Michigan, you could easily say, just like you did, wouldn't surprise me one bit if they turn around and beat Michigan, who's currently sitting at 2 in the conference.
Well, some of it is like, I think Michigan plays into what Nebraska wants anyways. They want teams to play through their post. They want teams to slow it down. I mean, Penn State wanted to run, and they can run. Nebraska doesn't have the athletes that Penn State does. Like, that's sort of what's fascinating. If you put those two teams and you're just talking athletically, Penn State is a far more gifted athletic program than Nebraska is, and they played their style of basketball. I think Nebraska, not to say that Nebraska matches up better with Michigan, because Michigan's a very, very good basketball team, but if they're going to play through their posts, I mean, how often have we talked about the way that Nebraska doubles down on their posts, what they did against Kalkbrenner, what they've done against Edey, in the past? Like when teams play through the posts, that fits what Nebraska tries to do defensively. And so I don't know that they welcome taking on a team as good as Michigan, relative to playing a Penn State. But I think the style fits with how they could be comfortable in that game. Plus, you're getting it at home. You're going to have a little bit more time to rest, and maybe you're going to have one of your bigs back to help you for a few minutes. If Burkay plays, he's probably only giving you 5 to 10 minutes. I don't think you're going to get a full shift out of him. So you're going to have to use it as best you can. But I don't look at this Michigan matchup as one where it's like, oh man, this is a real problem for Nebraska. I actually think it lines up okay for them.
What do you make of the G2 or the Gavin Griffith experience the last handful of games for Nebraska?
I'm intrigued because he's a guy that I don't want to see just hit the portal as soon as the season ends. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see if Nebraska can have him come back for another. I'd like to see if there's something there. I think it's hard to expect much out of someone that hadn't played for 7 straight games until that point where he comes in against Northwestern and he hits a 3. Was talking with some people that were not impressed by how he played yesterday, and it was like, well, hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. I don't know what the expectation reasonably is for a guy like that, and I don't know what he can be. I don't know what role he can serve. I don't think he's going to be a starter for you, but could he be a guy that knocks down a 3-pointer or 2 off the bench? I mean, that could be a huge thing for your team. So I like and hope that they can find a way to continue to incorporate him. Because there's other guys that I would like to see less on the court at times than Gavin Griffiths. We'll put it that way.
That's the guy that we do realize when we're talking about and critiquing this team that's the highest rated player on their roster.
Yeah, well, I mean there's a ton of talent there that no one has been able to figure out how to get him to play with confidence and with any kind of flow. It just feels so disjointed when he's on the court. Like the possession to possession, he sometimes looks like a wildly different player with whatever he's doing, defensively or offensively.
We're talking with Mike Schaefer at Husker247. Schaefer, as we kind of move forward here, you mentioned you don't hate the matchup with Michigan. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Michael Bruntz earlier today.
Can we go completely opposite of each other, and then I have to call him up and be like, what are you doing?
That's kind of what I'm hoping, to be honest. I'm just trying to create dissension within the Husker247 ranks.
Good. I like that. Makes us better.
On a scale of 1 to 10, your current confidence level that Nebraska will make the NCAA tournament?
7.
Oh, it's pretty high.
Quicker and better than or higher than Bruntz.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I think people are looking for reasons to dump on him. I think they're looking for reasons to quit on him. I think they're looking for reasons
on him yesterday.
Well, yeah, and I get that, but they lost a game. You move on. Like it's just, I think, and I talked about this on this show, I think we have taken sports and we take every game and we have to react wildly to every game. And it is one piece. It is 1/31th of your season. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot more than that. It really doesn't.
What? Hey, what was that fraction again, Mike J?
I made it up. 1/31. Let's see Michael Bruntz do that.
Listen, Mr. Mensa, he may try to double down on that.
He would give you the
don't
percentage.
Throw the gauntlet down. He'll come up with something slick. All right.
He'd be like, that's 3.2% of your season.
Jeez. Okay. Let me go over to baseball real quick, just because. But it's not Nebraska. I'm going to talk Major League here. How important did you think whatever message that Manfred was trying to deliver kind of landed about what the Dodgers do, and then what some of the owners, and in particular like Milwaukee, like responses are to the actual spending? Is it a common language, common message problem, or is it simply just guys have to be willing to do what other teams are doing?
I think that you have an issue, and I think it's more evident in baseball than it is in other sports, where you can make so much money as a sports owner, whether your team wins or loses, that it doesn't really matter whether you're trying to chase a championship or not. You're not, it used to be the people who owned sports teams did it because they wanted those teams to win and they wanted to be a hero in the local community. And then that sort of mattered. And now we hear about it as a return on investment. And there's people that buy these teams that don't even live in the community or care about the people that are in the community. And so I think baseball represents that to a greater degree than most sports, and especially in a sport where right now, if you are the 7th best team in your league, you're still going to the playoffs. So how much money do you really need to add to your bottom total at the deadline if you're in a pretty safe spot and you can kind of keep moving forward with what you have? And then you have the crisis where nobody wants to pay for the middle class of talent anymore. And so the few teams that are willing to spend can kind of stack their rosters while everybody else kind of throws their hands up and they're like, well, what are we supposed to do here? But the owners don't care. I guarantee you the Dolans do not care that they have spent less money for the upcoming season than last year where they made the ALCS and lost to the Yankees. It doesn't matter to them. They're going to sell that team for $2 billion either way. They bought it for $300 million. I'm not great at math. That seems like a pretty good profit for them. Actually, so why would they feel like they need to spend much money in between?
I think you are great at math because you nailed the 131th. Like that's exactly
almost to the
3.2%. Like way to go, Shane. Can I make the argument though?
So you're not mad about what Atanasio said about the Brewers only being good to a certain point in the playoffs?
Well, there's only so much that you can do. I would like to see teams try to win. I would love to see Cleveland go for it. I would love to see a World Series in my lifetime. I don't need to hear about, hey, we have to keep the window open for a longer stretch of time. Like, I don't care about your competitive window if it gets you a spot in the first weekend of the baseball playoffs and then you're not able to really make a run. I never felt like they had a chance to beat the Yankees in the sense that, look at those rosters. I mean, Cleveland to win 4 games in a 7-game series would have to have tremendous pitching and they didn't have it. They couldn't. Their bullpen, their best strength of their team, lost them that series. It's just the reality of where it's at. The Dodgers have collected a bunch of talent. They only have to have their starter pitchers go every 9th day, I think, at this point in time. Alden Gonzalez is going to call them scrappy as hell when they're 30 games up on the entire league.
Lucky underdogs.
Knock it off. That's the Mets.
So it's we're getting closer to European soccer where it's like you have these 3 or 4 teams that are going to outspend everyone by a substantial amount. And then the rest of you are fighting for scraps and attaboys.
I mean, if we're going to get closer to European soccer, then let's relegate some teams that aren't willing to play the game too. Let's
cut it out.
What I mean? Like that's part of the reason.
But there's no incentive for these owners to spend money.
Here's the thing: is there's also no discouragement because, like you said, this is the thing that really gets me. You're right. You buy a team for $300 million, you're going to sell it for $2 billion plus. Guess what? Spending $20 million extra a year on your roster really doesn't impact that bottom line.
Okay, let me ask you guys.
I agree. I'm with you.
You know what I mean? Like you're making $1.7 or $1.6 billion either way. Go ahead and make a competitive franchise so your entire community doesn't hate you.
We're fixing baseball. And I was saying to Ravi, the thing that the NFL does, right? You have to spend 89% of your cash flow over 3 years. Otherwise, you're part of the give back program for football. And I think it's important to understand being able to spend cash because you have to be able to show that it's in escrow. Mm-hmm. In baseball, you kind of have the luxury tax and kind of your 3-year 3% rule. Is there something you can do fiscally to better force, I should say, owners to spend their cash revenue?
You could hit them where it hurts, and the small market teams would lose their access to the competitive balance money that they get if they're not spending at a minimum amount of money for their overall roster. Something like that. I mean, I think there's ways that you can attack the unwillingness of the Brewers and the Guardians and the Pirates and the Rockies to spend money because they're going to get money from the Dodgers, whoever goes over that tax. So they're getting extra income because other teams are spending money. So they should have to be forced to reinvest that into their roster. Now, the problem with a salary floor is, okay, then every team will take one player, give them a large contract, slightly build around that, So for the Brewers, they're going to pay a bunch of money for Jackson Chourio. Mm-hmm. For the Guardians, it's Jose Ramirez and hopefully Travis Bazzana. So can you do enough where they're willing to continue to spend money? Like, it's just the difficulty is you have one extreme on one side, and then you have the A's, the Guardians, the Pirates, the Rockies that are just not spending any money on the other side. Like, it's just I don't know that there's a way that you can force it to happen without eliminating some of that competitive tax revenue that goes back to small market teams. And then they're going to cry about it repeatedly, and it's going to look like you're robbing from the poor. But I think that's what has to happen to force them to then attempt to build better rosters or what have you.
I think I have a plan. Okay. This is what I do. So my wife is not very good at picking out gifts for herself or telling me what she wants for gifts, right? She doesn't she likes things, but she gets really weird about spending the money, right? So I'll go, I got to the point where I was like, listen, either you're going to pick something you like, or I'm going to show you how much money I was planning on spending on you for Christmas, your birthday, or whatever, and I'll just light it on fire right in front of you. You pick which one you want. That's what you do with the salary floor, right? You say, hey, if you don't spend this amount of money, I'm taking it from you anyway. Like, you have to spend $100 million on your, or whatever the number is, right? You have to spend X amount of dollars on your roster. And if you only get to 60, I'm taking the other 40 from you and I'm lighting it on fire.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Shay, but Shelby probably doesn't have it. Does that remotely make sense to you?
That she doesn't do a good job of picking stuff out and letting me know what she wants. Yes, I experienced that. She would be very, very unhappy about me lighting money on fire, though. As the financial head of the household, she would be very, very unhappy about
That's my point, though.
She already thinks I light money on fire when I do stuff that I want to do. So
that's my point, though, right? It's like, hey, do the thing that I need you to do. Or otherwise, I'm spending the money anyway, and you're going to get nothing that you want.
I don't know how to feel married. It's fine.
Who, me? Yes. Well, she picks out what she wants now. It worked.
Okay, there you go. Strong armed her.
Into buying her
I
gifts.
wish that I had that problem.
I'm the a-hole.
Right.
I'm over here like trying to convince her to spend money. We need a salary floor, or not a salary floor. I don't know what we would call it. A spending
tax.
We need a spending floor. Like, hey, we can afford to do this. It's okay.
Appreciate you, Shay.
We appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, I'm gonna go be in the doghouse. Thanks for that, guys.
You and me both.
I'm glad I can help. That's DB. I'm Robbie.
That's what
Lulla.
you do. You light us on fire. You
And then
started and ended the same way.
And then I walk away.
Yep.
It's Hurrdat Sports Live. We'll wrap up the week tomorrow and get you kicked off on your weekend, right? That'll be more Hurrdat Sports Live tomorrow.